Yeah.
Julian, though, burnt das throat. Yeah. Oh, Widdowson. Uh-oh. King Dan's, he's leaking comfortably 90%. Widdowson's the Sovereign does pop off, but it's not enough. It's 95%. I think the game's just over. And Isolde with the clutch hold hit. Ball shift on wave 13. It is paying off extremely well for him. He's not going to hold, but man, he's doing really well here. Tryhards are out, and this was a really fast 3-0 victory for Big Bro Little Bro, your main Nova Cup champion.
Starting. Alright, welcome everyone, and to the second day of the Nekomata Cup, and we're gonna be joined here today with Dark Quacker and Widdowson here that couldn't play, but wanted to be here to at least flame King Dance a little bit, because he wanted some revenge. So hello Quacker and Widdowson, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually really excited to see that both teams decided to do Conquest mode, so it won't be 7 games of chaos.
Hello. Yeah, I'm also very excited. Looking forward to the games. I'm very happy to see a best of 7 finals because that can be a very competitive one. And I'm also very glad that we have the Conquest format because that's a little more fun than seeing chaos every game.
Well, you don't like King Dance playing Chaos every game? He was putting on a show here with Saiyajin yesterday on that Chaos pick.
It will be we won't be able to see the Zerker roll in 10 anymore, but maybe he'll have to think about drafting earlier.
But yeah, I mean, now we do have the matchup. It's only one match today. It's the best of 7. It was the adjustment made so that we can have the simple format due to the recency of the cup here, reducing the amount of stress on the new organizers. And so now the best of 7 is between King Dance and Saiyajin. King Dance Saiyajin against Ashton and X-God. So we saw a little bit yesterday how they fared. The only match that went more than one-sided was the one of X-God and Ashton against Lucien Drashier. That went 3-1. But all of the rest were 2-0s, 3-0s. So going to this final, how would you rate the teams approximately? Do you think it will be a very close series and going full distance, or do you think it's a little bit more decided right off the bat?
Given that it is the format's slightly different, there is Conquest mode actually this time. I expect a couple more wins and both sides. Don't expect a full. I'd say 4-2 for King Dan's Saiyajin is my bet.
Okay. And what about you, Widdowson?
Yeah, I also agree. I don't think there's gonna be a stomp in either direction. I think in terms of flexibility, I would favor King and Saya a little bit more when it comes down to playing multiple mastermind options. I think Ashton and Xgod have their clear preferences in, for example, Xgod playing Cash Out Fiesta. I think Ashton really likes his YOLO and his Greed, if I'm correct. But I think King and Saya are a little more flexible. But it's gonna be a very close series, I can imagine. So I'm not surprised if we see the full length and 7 games.
Okay, well, that's interesting. And do you have any comments on the fact that King Dance has an 80% win rate on Castle? Maybe maybe tell him to starve or do something else?
I think he can tell you that himself. We'll see it on the loading screen.
Well, I know King has a very strong castle win rate, but a lot of those games we played duo queue, and we played castle and chaos combination. We practiced that for the tournament, because we like that combination when there's no offensive spells in the game, and it worked out really nicely in all the practice games. Sadly, not in the tournament, but yeah, that's how the very good win rate is there.
What would you characterize? Why would you characterize this combination of masterminds effective in a game with no aggressive spells?
So you really like castle when there's defensive spells or scaling spells in general, because you're still lacking value till wave 11 till wave 12 if there's something like all out assault or PTA that can get really punished. And if you are able to manage a fast game where you can get rid of the first 10 waves really quickly, and then there's being investment and hero and stuff like that, then castle is a very nice pick there. And chaos is there to protect the castle a little bit, because by picking chaos you kind of make sure you're not gonna have a horrible roll. And that's a very good reason why, for example, chaos is better than greed at the moment, because with greed you can still have a very unlucky roll and a bad roll, whereas with chaos you're always gonna manage to find your auras, you're always gonna manage to find your early carry units. And yeah, it's a very good protection, and it's very good for scaling and winning in the late game with those two mastermind options.
I mean, that might be the reason why we saw a lot of chaos yesterday. I think every game that we casted on stream, there was a chaos present in it. There was Xcot playing it, there was King Dance playing it, um, but it was very present throughout the players. So it'll be interesting to see how it deviates from that with some combination that you've just suggested. On your part, Quaker, what kind of combination do you expect to see from Xcode and Ashton? Probably having a different approach to the game in terms of liking their masterminds.
Um, I don't fully know what they're going to pick because they have to pick so many different masterminds. They have to dig deep and play at least 4 if they want to win the series. So I know that Ashton likes to play scaling mastermind, so we'll see if he wants to play some cartel, chaos, some fiesta maybe. Not entirely sure what Xcut is going to be picking.
I mean, I did see Ashton starting to pick off the Castle 2 as a mastermind in some of his solo queue games. Um, Same goes for Fiesta, and you only need 4 mastermind in that best of 7 if you want to win it. And so I think Ashton, we will see the Ashton Castle, we will see the Ashton Fiesta if it goes the distance, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how he plays out with those. I mean, we know that the Fiesta for Ashton is kind of natural since he is already naturally pushing quite heavily in the early game and is potentially leaking, but he always comes out ahead, and that Fiesta could only benefit him overall. And how would you play around that as a final word here before we get into the game?
Fiesta's over 4 games. Surely you'll find one good Fiesta roll, right? So if he wants to, if they win on their good masterminds and then are stuck with the bad master, surely they just have enough games that they'll find some in the rolls.
So what do you think about that, Vidderson? Do you think it's only role dependent in terms of Ashton and an X-God if you pick the Fiesta, or they can still make it work by playing around their normally longer saves than usual than other teams?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they don't need a very special role for that to make it work, because Xcot and Ashton have that very good role player type of gameplay, because Ashton is mostly the one that is pushing and Xcot is mostly the one that is starving. So Ashton can make Fiesta work in pretty much any role. And it's also not like people think you always need to league with Fiesta, but it's pretty much already enough. If you league 3 out of 10 waves a little bit, then it's not much worse than any other option, or it can already be better than other options. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Ashton is good enough. He doesn't need a god roll for Fiesta to make it work.
Alright, so the lobby is up currently, so we will be able to join in. Um, so we're still missing some players, but we will be starting shortly. And I did some penny style overlay for you guys, having some description of you. I don't know if you see it on stream, if you have it on the side. What are your thoughts about it? I mean, I'm pretty sure I went all out on Witherspoon, but
Good old Witterson.
What exactly was that?
the you have a caster bio, so
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, Setsuko enthusiast. Very beautiful, very beautiful.
I mean, for people who don't know, Witherspoon, when he streams, he always and he takes inspiration into Setsuko, into how he approaches stream, trying to make it interesting for the Legion players too, and it is somewhat successful, I would say. So we're quite happy to have you here also to try and entertain us in those casting moments.
Glad to hear that.
So we're really missing Cyanogen here. Maybe sleeping
If
again. We'll see.
worst case scenario, I guess Witterson can swap over and play with King Dance a little bit.
Yeah, the return of the Tomato Boys. But yeah, EHE is here, tournament mode is on, and it's gonna be a best of 7. We'll see how everything goes. We might have a break for the players in the midway, so after game 3, to let them reset. So we'll see how they decide to approach it, or how we decide to approach it as well. We'll go as we think will be best for the players. So we'll say to the player that we are ready when they are. And so now what we're going to do is trying to explain here the logic. Looks like it is going to be X-God and sending to Saya and Ashton sending to King Dance. Do you think this is something that is beneficial for Ashton and X-God, or does it benefit more King Dance and Sayajin in that sending order?
I feel like it benefits King Dan's side a little bit more, but we'll have to see which masterminds they end up picking.
I agree, yeah. I think the other way around would be better for Xcot and Ashton.
But we'll have to wait no longer than just a few seconds, because game 1 is about to begin here between #1 and Xcrash. Yes,
Xcrash.
I almost forgot the name, even if it's super intuitive.
I don't know. It's not super intuitive. Ashen Blusher doesn't crash.
Yeah, he doesn't crash anymore. But here we go into game 1 here. We're gonna have the mastermind chosen, and we have the lock-in priestess already from Exod because of the presence of the divine blessing. Ashton going for the greed here, and we're still waiting on King Dan and Sayajin.
Chaos for King Dan, so might not be playing this Chaos Mastermind that much anymore. If they win this first game, given that there is no aggressive spells like Witterson mentioned earlier, they are playing Chaos Castle.
I mean, that's the combination you discussed about, Witherspoon.
Yeah, so I was very much expecting the Chaos pick here by King, because there's the Divine Blessing, and you're always gonna find a good unit for it with Chaos. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there's no offensive spells, so the castle is really not a risky pick. I also like the lock-in choice by Xgod, going for the Pota lock-in. He doesn't have the greatest scaling in his role, I would say, but it should be working out fairly good. And Ashton just going for his greed, and I think he really likes his greed because he has APS, LOD, and he has his sight gun here as well.
Both Cyanogen and Ashen Butcher had the option to pick Tempest and Lord of Death, but both of them have opted into different combinations. I'm confused and going to be interested in seeing what Ashen decides to put his Divine on the picking side.
So it's gonna be King Ups on everybody, and we're gonna have a Treant start from King Dance, and that's gonna be paired with the Treasure Hunt. Very good to cover on wave 2, or even further wave 3. We'll see what he turns out rolling into, and I do see an Angler. I think that will be his plan for wave 2 here. And Cyanogen starting with the Sky Queen will transition probably into Pee-wees on wave 3, and the Priestess start is to be expected and the gun from Ashton.
Ashton is doing a gun all the way on the very far left. I'm not familiar with this position, but it's still at the very top, so I imagine it's not too dissimilar from what other people have done.
I've seen Ashton be very familiar with this positioning. I think he's been pretty much the only one that's been spamming this positioning in solo queue, and it was oftentimes looking really strong. So you can look forward to it. It's pretty nice if he does it.
I imagine it's
I think he likes it because of the way it interacts with range sense. I think he has better control into range sense with this positioning, and we did see the angler coming out from King Dance behind the treant.
I'm pretty sure having a split, having it all the way on the left also means you can small split with it. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. He will have it split tank a little bit for sure, and that's how it really shines, right? It tanks a little bit, it gets the extra damage.
Cyajin does not have very much gold to work with, so he's at 2 PBs and he might leak if XGod decides to their snail.
XGod didn't have enough for the third snell, but we do see 2 snells, and already one of them getting focused. A little bit of a brain lag on that snell, but will turn out to be a smallish leak. Oh, it's still 56%. A bit surprising here with that size of.
He doesn't have very much tank value, just 2 PBs. I don't actually know if he would have done much better if he decided to split.
Oh, very.
King Dan's almost covered, but the gate guard died, so he will not be getting his fun.
It is very close to a leak here, and they are playing on the edge, and that's gonna benefit. It's gonna benefit them in the long term if the castle stays equal on workers, but they need to avoid some king damage. It's only 4% at the moment, so not too bad. And we see here King Dan's deciding to not hunt. Yeah, okay, he's going to hunt. He's still unsure about it. And he's not going to hunt, but doing the Chloropixie here to maybe attract some of the split a little bit better.
I like that decision making. He felt like going for the treasure hunt here is a little too greedy in case he gets a full send, so he decided to untreasure, but get a little bit of extra mythium by the pixie in the split.
Yeah, and we're gonna have him have the Chloropixie die, meaning that he gets the.
XGod was deciding between putting down a consort and a couple buzzes or doing the casket, and he ended up picking the casket. Then he gets punished by the double DT sin, since his Priestess of the Abyss was not.
I mean,
and Saya was saving here. Saya is listening to King Dan's tagline. If you pick castle, you either starve or fuck off. So he did that, and let's see if he can punish Ashton a little bit here. I kind of doubt it though, because
He did send it. He did send it imps though, and Ashton did just build 3 bucklers instead of any fortified, so it should turn out pretty decent, I think.
I mean, we will see. Still has the magic damage of the Seraphim here, but imps is one of the hardest sent to handle when playing gun. But it looks like the aggro on the gun is quite effective here to use the HP.
One of the imps is sniped already.
Yeah. And that's going to be a small leak on Ashton still, but very good considering it is an imp send here. Any gun players are a little bit terrified to those imps, but well done by Ashton to only leak 3 scorpions and 2 imps here.
I would not say it's very good for Ashton. He was pretty much almost on value and he still leaked over 50%. I think that's a win for King Dance and Saya. It's good that he starved here.
And
Drake is coming out from XGod, so I don't actually think Saya's going to be able to hold that. He has no Swift armor on the board. He's got 2 natural units already. Even if they get through the wave, the Tempest isn't helping kill the Drake that well.
yeah, the biggest issue here is the Drake. The magic damage is very effective against those nature tanks that he's building right now.
Yeah.
We will see if King Dance's Chlorio is going to die this wave.
I mean, he does receive a dino here. The dino will go into the split here. The Chloropixie is still magic damage against it. and it buys time for the graveyard to get extra summons. Looking at Cyajin getting the bigger send here, 140 on his side, and it is an income send compared to the imps that were sent on the last wave. And he's gonna leak the Drake +2, so that's a good counter attack here by Xcloud to punish the long save from Cyajin.
That's very good. Also, it being an income send is very good for Xcod's income here. And it's also very hard to be holding a Drake on wave 6 with a Sky Queen. It's most of the times a better decision than going straight 7, because Sky Queen on 7 can be really strong if she has some arcane tanks in front.
Yeah.
Looks like number 1 are going to take a little bit more king damage as the Drake walks in and taps a couple times.
Yeah, but we do have already here the brutes on 7.
Ashton is prepared. He has 1 veteran already. He might do 2 more, but he's deciding to build a second gun, which will be very. I think that's the correct choice. Just basically double the damage for the wave instead of more tanks that he already has a ton of.
Yeah, I mean, the damage from the gun is also very good on wave 8, so that's gonna help a lot here for him to push extra workers. He doesn't need to build anything on wave 8 now with this positioning and these gun builds, so gonna be interesting to see how many workers he decides to push with his current build. But as of now, the split aggro seems decent, the debuff is already down, and we're getting to the guns, but the wave is already mostly dealt with, and that's gonna
The
be
full hold,
only
I think.
No, it is
Oh,
a
just
small
the
league,
Boots League.
Yep.
1 blood made it through, but X got also leaking here, even though he has a full Iron Maiden. That Cannoneer Send is a bit too strong, I guess.
Yeah, I mean
That's super good for Ashton here. Super good.
Yeah, and they're gonna take some king damage, but it is only to equalize the king HP. And I mean, the position from Ashton right now with these guns, I think he just doesn't build, or he just prepares for wave 9 here.
Everyone is income sending. I don't imagine anyone is going to leak. Maybe X-Guard if his Priestess dies.
What I want to mention here is King Dance really just had a very snowbally and greedy move right there. He got an income send on wave 6, I think, so he felt free to overgreed on 7. He on wave 7 he was treasure hunting. He was 100 under value while having a pixie. He barely managed to hold. Right now he's income sending. He gets the kingpin out, and that's how he gets his huge advantage. He's gonna be 200-300 power score ahead now because all of that workers and extra underground workers and kingpin values. So he played it out perfectly, but he also was a little bit lucky with his early angler roll on wave 2. That really helps him snowball the game even harder now.
The Dino Send was even able to kill a Chloropixie, so that's going to be some more Mythium for him. The Cyajin leaking makes the rat a tiny bit less effective, but still 16 workers already, 150 value over Ashton, so he's very strong in this game.
Yeah, and remember that he has the treant here that can be turned into a Tree of Life. That's gonna be a real terror to deal with on wave 11 and 12, so that's a huge pressure point from King Dan and Cyajin now that can utilize.
I think if he decides to make it at any point, even on wave 10, Kingpin is just going to be so tanky, and wave 10 won't even be able to kill it properly.
So now that we are approaching the mid game and we're gonna see here the decision between Divine Blessing, Embargo, and Allowance, what do you expect to see here as the next send against those players?
Since X-God is the lock-in Poda and has a Poda on board, I don't imagine he's picking anything other than Divine, and then King Dan Sai are going to be very pressured if they want to send 13, which I doubt they will.
So we're gonna
income
see.
sends are coming out.
Yeah, the income sends are decided upon for King Dan and Saya. Same goes for Ashton. What about X-God? X-God is sending full here, trying to leak the Sky Queen on 10.
Cyajin does not have the best tank value, and aside from the Sky Queen, Tempests aren't that great against Mole. Cyajin decides to upgrade his Tempest. We'll see if he does. He's putting down a non-tanking Fire Lord, so he's not thinking for 10. 16 for 11 already.
But Fire Lord is one of the best options here on wave 10 still. When you have a backup DPS in the Sky Queen, it's gonna tank a long time, and as well with those Royal Guards. The mold is just evaporating, and that should be a hold from Cyanogen.
I think the Fire Lord focused on the mole first, so it ended up being a very good pick.
It was still a 340 Sand here on towards X-God. He's gonna kill the boss but leak the Sand, and the big Sand here against King Dance was not effective because he did build that Tree of Life for the Kingpin. So only X-God leaking, and it is really a game that is between Ashen and King Dance at the moment. Both X-God and Cyanogen have had some issues holding some of those income Sands, and it really will be interesting to see who comes out ahead of that.
I would not be surprised if we see an embargo here. Okay, they go for the divine, but
Four
embargo is
divines.
also a very strong spell. But yeah, I mean, divine blessing, Phoenix with Tempest, and here on King Dance side, yeah, he does have the Shadow Dancer now.
He doesn't have a
so-
spot for an APS
Wow.
or something, or some aura in the middle to get hit all these units. So
Yeah, yeah.
King Dance is in a very, very dominant spot. I don't imagine leakable until maybe 60.
So yeah, I mean, the Shadow Dancer will be quite hard to leak with the Divine Blessing, and I think he's waiting for the APS here in the middle.
No APS, but he's got a couple more waves to get landed. X-God decided not to put his divine on his Poda correctly, because otherwise it would have died.
Yeah, I mean, that's normally the thing when you don't have the Azaria yet. You most likely skip the wave until you have the Azaria, but that might cost him a little leak here on the side of Exile. Maybe baiting a 12 cent?
There is a lot of workers in Ashton, but I don't imagine he wants to be sent against Tree, Kingpin, and Shadow Dancer. Oh, the Sens are coming out though. Income for Ashton. He doesn't break King Dance.
I mean, very intriguing to see the Scent coming. You do see the Divine Blessing Phoenix shown from Cyanogen. So yes, maybe a little bit more of a weaker side on wave 12, but still very strong overall. And the Divine Blessing Dread Knight should just be enough here for King to hold here.
I'm worried that the Phoenix will not tank enough because of this column 4 buckler. That's pretty high up, but maybe it'll tank enough that it's still full damage. Oh, it's just tanking full anyways because the buckler went to the right.
I mean,
So that is probably an easy hold, I think.
yeah, this
It's
is
a bit hard to kill this Phoenix.
this is a very good aggro currently for Cyanogen. But everything is on the Phoenix right now, but not much of the wave remains. The HP looks good, and that's gonna be a hold on Cyanogen, and that's gonna be a hold on King Dance. Maybe a little bit too soon on the trigger for Exile and Ashton.
Yeah. If they were predicting an embargo from King Dan Cyanogen, maybe they could have gotten it, but with the Divine Blessing placed on the board, I don't. They were in any pressure.
So
Now Ashton Butcher is looking really bad. He's 800 down already. Well, he's gonna be 600, 300 down-ish already, and wave 15 is coming soon.
when do you think the Sun is coming, Vidderson? When you're saving that much Mythium here from King and Cyanogen?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird spot right now because against the Azaria Divine Blessing you usually prefer 14 or over 15. Against the gun you usually prefer 15 over 14. So when I see at the work is pushed by King Nance and Saya, I'm pretty sure they will save longer. So it's gotta be 15, or if Ashton and X-God go for Income King now, they can even save longer and go 16.
Given that X-God has shown his Millennium, I imagine it's never 14.
It's never
X-God.
14, but the Income King is coming through, and so we'll see if King Dan and Cyanogen decide on going for that wave 16 that Virson talked about. And looking at the build, it might be a very good decision in the end, because it does open up then afterwards the 18 cent, where Ashton could struggle a little bit more here due to not having a split with those guns. They do, however, have a full king spell up on this wave, and it's gonna.
So they won't be dying on 6. But who knows how many workers King Dan's and Sage are be pushing. They might still want to go for a wave 16 shot.
We did, however, see something here. X-God did harden all of his monuments, but I don't think it will be a factor onto the decision, or will it?
It was a factor. I think they are going for a. Saigen is going for a Needler. Seeing that. I'm not sure about the Needler and Saigen. Ashton has a lot of that are good against.
Yeah, but what do you really send against that build? I think the
Yeah.
Needler is okay because it helps shredding the veterans a little bit. Rams are not that great in my opinion because, well, if the Rams run into 2 Vulcan cannons in the Hades, they will also pop really quickly. I think it's always very tricky to send 15 against gun rolls if they have magic damage as well.
I agree. I kind of wish he upgraded this thing instead of putting down another Lord of Death, but we'll have to see.
It's helping on the damage department. It's gonna be a 940 on towards Ashton, the smaller of the 2 Sen, and it's gonna be a large Sen here against X-God. The Poda already dying here, tanking a bit too much here.
Oh.
So no more Divine, and it's definitely a leak for X-God. We'll see if Ashton is able to.
I mean, he does have the Hades still alive. The boss is going down.
The Divine
slowly,
Gun is split tanking.
but it is not
dead,
enough
I
here,
think.
and the boss will go through at some HP with the Needler. It's gonna be a little bit of king damage here with the Shaman, and almost a full wave here from X-God being leaked here.
I don't think that's enough to kill them, but they're going to be under no pressure until wave 18, though, so I imagine everyone should go 18.
I mean, the push from King Duns is substantial. Saya stopping at 29. And looking at the values, I mean, King Duns
King
is.
Dance is still plus.
Oh, look at what he found here.
He found APS, MPS. I don't think he had it last round, so he finally rolled it, and now he is unable until 18.
And
He's vibing.
I mean, this is with Divine Blessing. Any Dark Mage Enjoyer on 17, anyone? Just think about it hard enough and maybe it will come out on the Chaos. So we'll see if this comes through, because this combination is near impossible to leak on 17. That does seem to be the 18 Senden, but then
He has a Hades already on the board.
there's also a Phoenix on Sayaj on the board. So
Yeah, it
very,
is
very tricky spot for X-God and Ashton.
very rough spot for Crash.
The most tricky spot why this game is pretty much unwinnable for Ashton and X-God is the suicide angle in that game, because if you ever want to league King Dance again this game, then you will need to push workers, but Ashton can't push workers because he's the holder, and
Yep.
Sayajin always has the suicide angle onto Ashton that game. So if they end up somehow winning that game, then it's really well played, but I don't think there's gonna be a chance for them.
Yeah, and we see it in the power score. We saw it also at the beginning. The game was trending towards a King Dance versus Ashton in terms of how the players were playing it out, and it comes out to what we thought about X-God being more of the Starvey player, and Saya trying to enable King. It's just X-God saying to Saya wasn't the best here for X-Crash, it looks like.
I imagine they're going to change their positioning a little bit game 2. I'm a little bit surprised that Ashton doesn't play with the split side gun, but I'm not the most knowledgeable on this positioning.
So the Sen on 18 is coming through for everybody. It's going to be Shamans paired with some tanks here, and also Witches here added for Ashton.
Two Krakens for King Dance? I don't think there's a world where God is holding this.
Especially that he hardened last wave, it looks like here.
Yeah, he's fully hardened, no Swift units, singles area. It's a bit of a doomer.
I mean, it
Ashen
was. It was there.
Ashen's putting down some pyros, but he has no big tank value, nothing Swift.
Yeah,
He's close to on value though.
He's
So maybe he can
relying
pull out a
on those
miracle.
bucklers here to try and tank, but it's really just they needed to have King Dance and Saya send on 17 to maybe have a chance, but I mean, King Dance and Saya are really experienced and are not falling for those kind of stuff.
The splash damage from the whales on 18 are just melting everything Ashton has. He has no big single tank, so everything's just melting to the AoE. And that's the leaks coming out from X-Crash.
And that's gonna be King Dance and Saiyajin taking game one here quite. I mean, I don't want to say quite convincingly, but I think that some decision in the mid game really helped them just pull out ahead approaching the late game.
Despite being the lock-in Divine player, X-God was the furthest out of the game with Divine Hoda.
Yeah, that's why Chaos is much better than lock-in in that spot, because you lock in Pota, that pretty much means you need to play any Pota role that you're finding. And well, if you find a role like this, you just have 0 scaling, and you also don't have a free early game as we saw on Wave 4, for example.
Wave 4 was... I think he could have held Wave 4 if he went for Consorts, but he decided on the Casket, which did not pay out for him.
But yeah, I mean the turning point here in this game was I mean there was two things right that happened this game. It was the early game of King Dance that was very greedy and unpunished with the Chloropixie Rat, and also the Angler found on wave 2 that enabled him to have that strong Kingpin for 11 and 12, but also the missend a little bit on wave 12 for Xgod and Ashton, knowing there's Divine Blessing into the game, and knowing they have Divine Blessing on themselves as well with the gun and the Poda, covering themselves pretty well up until wave 15. Not utilizing that pressure point might have been the game decider here, because if they go for a longer save here, I believe it is way harder to leak the Poda with a gun player as a partner in the mid game than the Phoenix with the Dread Knight without APS.
I think honestly, King Dance is never gonna be leakable that game after the early game. It was such a good role early on. That's why Chaos is so strong. He had the treasure hunt, so he didn't need to be greedy. He was greedy when he was able to greed. So it was just very clean played by him. And after he got that Kingpin power spike and the Dread Knight with all the good spells and the possible roles for it, I think this game is just very rough to win. So it's very good for Ixgod and Ashton that King doesn't have Chaos anymore now.
Okay, so that is the other point here. Chaos and Castle. I mean, Chaos for King and Castle for Saiyajin is no longer available due to the Conquest format, and they have 3 more games to go. Do you think Saiyajin is capable of doing such a chaos gameplay that Kingdom showed?
Shadow, we're waiting for you in
Uh,
the lobby, I think.
yes, sorry. So yeah,
Yeah,
do you think Saya will be in a position to make a chaos showing as well?
yeah, he can for sure. Uh, I think it's actually very good that he doesn't have to play Castle anymore now. The Castle was really a pretty bad pick in that game. It didn't work out really good for Saya. He had less income on wave 11 than Ashton did, while Ashton was Greed and he was Castle, and he had a very low workers there as well. So in that game, Saya really got carried by King, but Saya also did a little bit to enable King's early game by saving so long. So
He
yeah,
did
he's gonna have better games
the
now.
castle gameplay that King Dance wanted.
Yeah, ARF or fuck off.
But yeah, I mean that was pretty good. We saw in the power score also that was reflected. King Dan's always very far ahead in the power score, so that does make it a little bit harder on Ashton and XGod to make something happen during this game. So approaching the next game here, I know it depends a lot on the Legion spells. What do you want to see from XGod and Ashton?
I want to see a Fiesta,
Yeah,
but
me too.
we'll have to see what the Legion spell say. I'm not sure how last game would have gone if everyone just went wave 15, but I imagine King is just too strong and holds anyways.
I mean, we are into game 2 here between King Dan's and
An
XGod.
aggressive spell,
Ooh,
and then 2 scaling spells. Oh, Ashton Ashton has a black. He might have some technical issue.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of an issue here. Ashton has crashed, maybe?
He says black, so I think he even typed it out. So I think he just loaded in and can't see anything. Okay, Ashton's.
Okay, we'll see if this is solved. We'll
Okay,
maybe do
nice.
a remake.
It looks good. He says it works. It's fine.
Okay, fine. Everyone is just going standard early game, safe spells, safe masterminds. No chaos on anyone.
It's gonna be Cartel on King Dance, possibly looking towards that Shadow Dancer again with the APS. So that's let's see how he approaches that role. I think this is a something he's looking for. We're gonna have Saya maybe with a. I mean, he has a strong gun roll. I think gun with Chloropixie is something that is underrated right now. Let's see if he knows about it. We're gonna have
X-God is
Ashton.
playing a very fun Seraphim Angler opener.
Oh,
So
that's shout out to Penny. Penny likes this Devilfish Angler opener, but X-Guy's gonna mix it up with a Ranger, it looks like. An Oathbreaker from Ashton here with the Greed.
Ashton has the Tempest Phoenix for this game, so we'll see if they try to make 13 a pressure point or anything.
Oh,
The snail sound from Ashton.
Oh,
But-
baby, look at King Dance roll.
Sage is very happy
Ah.
about that snail. He's 5 workers now.
That's just Withersson teaching King Dance how to play, right?
No, it was very smart by King. If you guys didn't see it, he rerolled on wave 1 because he did, yes, you mentioned he did have the Dread Knight APS, but he had 0 early game. He had Pilgrim, Steeds and Masks in his roll,
Oh,
and that's just not a solid opener. So he decides to reroll on 1, he finds the Anglers, and now he's just vibing. His roll is so good now.
yeah, because now his
I-
late game can beat the APS Mask, right? That is a solid combination for the late game in terms of DPS when you have a solid frontline with Angler.
Yeah, and APS Chieftains that are buffing X or white main buffed units, so they get much more effective on the HP.
Yep. I'm a little bit surprised he decided to drop the Dread Knight still. Still, like, it's still a good unit with the MPS they could have taken.
It's tough to fit in the role
Yeah.
here, I think. I mean, he could decide to either keep Antler or Egg, but yeah, I think it's totally fine. You don't in that role you don't need the Dread Knight anymore.
Yeah, no. I think it will be too difficult because you need extra frontline, and the egg is just giving you that. It would be very difficult to still fit the Dread Knight because if you pick it, you replace one of your tanks. You don't really leave the APS out, and I think the egg is very important for King Dance going into the mid and late game.
Let's keep
So-
an eye on Ashton's lane here. He pushed 6 workers.
Ooh, I mean, the split is
Saiyajin
very
is
good
going to be
here.
holding with his Treant and his Nightmare against a single Lizard, I believe.
Yeah, and Ashton here is gonna be clearing most of the wave, but the Nekomata should not be enough here. He's ignoring the Snell, which is very good here to clear most, and that's 34%, so the 6 worker push is worth it, I would say here.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad.
I mean, it does prevent him from pushing here. It looks like Saya does push to 7 workers, something that we often see with the Nightmare and the Treant. We're gonna see how he approaches that, if it is going to be the Tree of Knowledge or Tree of Life. I would presume it is the Tree of Life paired with the Nightmare. It's not the most effective, but still some healing value.
I
X-God
don't
got
think
sent
he
on wave
needs to
3.
upgrade.
Got sent on wave 3 and didn't push, and got his Bounty Hunter, and he's getting a send now, so he'll be happy about that. Be able to push some workers.
Let's see if he does. I've seen X-God on Bounty Hunters just push no workers at all, so I'm curious what he's doing here.
He already pushed one, so
So
Okay.
he's
maybe
at
he pushes a
6.
7.
But the question is, does he have an answer for
He's going to
those
7.
weak waves, right? The 6 and 7. It's gonna be quite important for him to know if he can hold those waves. And it looks like he's gonna be going for the Slime Siren on 6, I would presume. But I don't
Slime
think
Siren,
if he
and
does
then
that, he gets the bunk. I think the bunk is quite important here, and I don't think he gets it if he goes Slime Siren.
yeah.
Ooh,
It's
Cyanogen does upgrade the Tree of Knowledge here. Interesting.
So that's an auto hold for Cyanogen. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
very
an
good
auto
against 3
hold,
snails.
but you kind of sacrifice the healing potential for the double. I think like it's not that impactful since you can have frontline instead, but it's still something to note. You do sacrifice a bit of value on that carry unit.
We didn't talk about it, but King Dan's are positioned differently. King Dan's sending it to Ashton, and then Ashton sending it to Side, so it's the other way around.
Huh? Oh yeah, descending order. X God is sending to King Dan, so they did swap.
Yes, they did swap, as we figured would be better for them.
But look at how safe King Dance is playing here. Plus 40 value. I think he just knows that 6 and 7 are just very rough for him with his bounty hunter build.
He's plus 40 and he's tantrum this wave, so I don't think he's leaking. Ashen is okay. Ashen might be leaking.
It's gonna
Very
be a
bad
Canary
tank
against
value.
Tempest, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see how much work the Zeus can do, but it is non-tanking.
It is not tanking, but he does have the extra time here going to the Zeus. It's gonna be only the Cannoneer leaking, I do presume here. The Croco going down, and yes, it's gonna be the Cannoneer going through. But the Drake here not going to leak King Dance as an answer. So small advantages, but nothing too important at the moment. Apart from just Cyanogen being ahead in workers since forever here.
X-God received a small send and decided not to push off it. He's correctly scared of wave 7, but even after pushing, his value is not looking great. He has a couple rangers, I guess. He upgraded the Slime Siren finally. We'll have to see if it's enough against these brutes.
I mean, he's still minus 55, not looking too terrible. It all depends on if the Slime Siren gets the 40 stacks. And that's gonna decide if he leaks only the brutes or a little bit more here.
Shouldn't be a horrible leak though. He has a lot of value and the Slime Siren should get the blobs out.
Slime Siren's getting focused, but I think it's got enough mana
Yeah, it
to get the
does.
triple spawn. And then the Bounty Hunter's gonna hit, and then the Slimes again. I think it's looking like it's like a fine hold.
I mean, he
Oh,
did
she's sending
snipe
a brute.
one
Yeah, that's a
brute
hold.
and the other one's going down already, so it's gonna be a sub
I think
40.
it's a full hold. Oh, Sajin has got wrecked by those blobs.
I mean, he's 13 workers, he's bing chilling.
Yeah, Saya is quite happy. The two blobs not really that important for him, it looks like here.
It was very interesting to see the tree exploded while he was still alive. I've seen that very rarely, that it's full mana without dying.
Oh, that's enabled by the steed here.
Yep,
Yep.
yeah, very good, very good. I never played that unit. I didn't know that you can push so many workers early on with it. So yeah, it's nice to see
It
that.
is. It's very strong. It's not exactly weak.
It's
10, I
very
think.
oppressive if you have the right combination. Paired with mana generation, it's a real terror in the late game because any kind of sense that you do needs to be ranged because you're just getting nuked on the wave, and still it will reach the backline quite fast. So it will be very tricky to leak with mana generation.
King Dan's decided to send Mole against Ashton this wave, but not enough tank, so the planes are able to get straight onto the wave.
Going straight onto the wave, only Leviathan remaining as Pierce damage going down, so it's gonna still be a small leak, but I don't think it's really worth it.
Two creeps, I think. Definitely not worth it for Ashton, for King Dan's. Ashton's gonna be happy about that. He was probably a little bit scared about wave 9, to be fair, with all that pierce damage and all that small range damage.
Yeah, but I think
Very
it's
interesting.
Just... Yeah, go.
it's very interesting to see in that game the roles will be changing. Xcode is saving a lot on King Dance. King Dance, even though he's cartel, he's still on 9 workers, and the cartel is gonna kick in after 10. So yeah, this game Sayajin will have to be the carry. And I'm not saying Xcode is doing a great play saving that long into kingpins, because they most of the time will have a full and free hold there. But yeah, King Dance is low workers and he will lose income, so he's not gonna be far ahead.
Yeah, he's not gonna
King
be.
Dance, both of his kingpins are out, and he's receiving no sin. So I wonder if he's going to be doing some pushing to no sins.
Yeah, he's not going to be far ahead. However, with this center from Saya, I do presume X-God is getting the Kingpin on 10. And with counter-attack on the board, I do think maybe 11 is something you can look for against King Dance, but he does show the Pilgrim, so that's gonna put a little bit of trickiness onto what they decide to do. But looks like it's gonna be a 10 cent with Ashton sending.
X-God is leaking a bit, making a long wave. Definitely going to be some 10 sins from X-God Ashton, I believe. Unless X-God decides to save longer. Go straight 13 or something.
And
Save
it's gonna be the
longer, okay.
Ogre and the Pack.
Ashton has his doppelganger out, but very little tank value for it. This is the first bad wave for the Tree of Knowledges, so we'll see if he's able to, maybe he's able to snipe the sins or something, but I don't imagine he's this wave. Kingdens looks very solid with his double kingpins already, and he has Tantrum for this wave, so he's going to be sniping the sins even a little bit.
What do you think of the send of X-God against the double Kingpin?
I think it's a fine send. Maybe 4 Eyes is better, but it's hard to say. It's 2 kingpins is a lot of HP to get through.
Oh, and they're straight onto the boss here, and one Kingpin goes down, but the other one is still alive, and it looks like...
It is
Wait.
a leak, I think, but it is...
Yeah.
It's... Oh, he killed the boss, so... King Dance just leaks an Ogre after... Versus this 400 sin, so not a huge leak. I wonder if maybe ever a Shaman.
I really think it's a ram angle there. If your opponent has double kingpin, you know for sure that you need to send enough tanks, else the kingpins will just melt the boss down. So
Yeah.
either it's maybe 4 eyes and more snails or dinos and stuff like that, or a ram, because the ram is really effective against the kingpins.
Sajin just fed a shutdown, but he's still on shutdown because they were saving Mythium. And now Ashton and X got are in a rough spot. They figure out how they're holding 11.
But that's a 19 worker siege in here. It's not going to be pretty here in terms of the side of the send for X-God. X-God again in a rough spot, but he's still having some gold to build. I do expect a bunk.
We have a villain Phoenix for Ashton, but he has no flying buffs on it. I wonder if you should have put it right in front. It's a bit greedy to have it no buffs right now.
I mean, it's a little bit greedy, but it does enable him to have a better setup for later. It's tanking quite nicely here, but it will be full tanking soon.
I think it's a leak to the full income, so it's really rough.
I mean, there's still the Leviathan. Yeah, it is a leak. The Zeus is not enough magic damage to enable him. How is X-God doing with his gate? It is going to be a leak on this side as well. And it will equalize. It will equalize the King HP.
X-God did take counterattack, so that's an extra leaking. But they're going to be taking some king damage, and then maybe going for a huge 13 play.
Do you feel like 13 is a good send against the villain doppel here? Or is it just motivated by the presence of the Tree of Knowledge here that are weaker on wave 13 where they're big units?
I think Sai does have a villain double, but he also has 0 Swift units on board aside from it. And then King Dance is double Kingpin, so it'd be hard to go for wave 14. They'd have to go all the way to 15 or something.
I mean, what we have here for King Dance, however, is a lot of magic damage, which is still very good on wave 13, especially if he goes for an Antler in front to buff. We'll see what he decides on doing. It looks like it's going to be his best decision. Still not going any eggs here, so we thought the egg would be quite effective, but he is also Creditor. That is important to note that we didn't, at least I didn't see here. That's going to help him cover his weak wave on 14 with just plain out
The
bad.
13 sins are coming out. Double 4 eyes for X God, which I think is good spend against the double Kingpins. We'll see if King Dan's scared and decides creditors or not. Full income from Ashton. I guess Cyajin is weak enough that he might actually leak just the Cannoneers, because the boom trees aren't going to be reaching them, and then the wave is just beating down on the doppelganger slowly.
I mean, we'll see what they decide to do. King Dance is not utilizing the Creditor here.
He's correctly scared and is full building for this wave, but unfortunately he is going to be buffing a. He's
he's
buffing a
not.
mask, so it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
So buffing the mask here is going to give him a swift tank, and the 4 eyes are not on it, so that means half the wave is going to be nullified and utilize the HP on the Hellraiser, and then everything goes onto the Chieftain. I think that's a very smart positioning.
Oh, the Hellraiser is getting partially focused, and it's actually tanking for a long time with all of his HP, but it looks like it's going to be a leak for King Dance anyways, even though he decided not to Creditor. So that's a lot of damage. Might be dead.
That's a lot
Three
of
Ashtons
damage,
were
yeah.
able to go through on Cyajin's lane. He was very weak here. No impact damage.
And that's a leak to income set as well. So even if they survive here, Ashton does have a large economy lead already.
Hey, there was one more. That's a power set, right? The reason coming out for Ashton X God, well, I guess they are scared here and then not again until wave 17 or so.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, they hard pushed for the wave 13 play.
Mhm.
So if they are not sure that the enemies go 15, like they can for sure expect 14 in that spot, they are just guaranteed that if they don't income in king here. So I think with all that workers, it's correct to go for the income king, because you expect 14 in that spot, as we can see in the hardens and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we do have also the Phoenix with double Leviathan buff on Ashton. That's going to be quite powerful on wave 15, and there's another one in preparation as well.
This Phoenix is not tanky anymore though, so we'll see if he decides to sell the Chain Fist for wave 16 or so if it gets that far. Sends are coming out for Cyajin. I assume King Dance will be sending as well. They decided on wave 15. They're gonna X Crash gonna be very angry. Are unfortunately hard in this wave, so they'll be a bit weaker.
It's gonna be
Kraken DTs for King Dance.
It's gonna be interesting to see how Ashton is doing against this Sen. I think it's mostly Ashton needs to hold, and that was the idea of X-God and Ashton. Ashton is strong on 15. I harden to protect his weak wave, and Ashton is gonna cover me on 15. We're gonna see if this is coming through here.
He is minus 300-ish, so even he's not exactly the strongest here, but he did receive no damage from King Dan. If the Phoenix is Smurf, he should hold.
I think Ashton should be holding. I'm a little afraid that he doesn't have enough in his split there, that everything
The
turns
boss went
too
left.
quickly.
The boss went left. I think his villain Phoenix is dying first. Maybe it's enough on the boss
Slow.
already. Ooh,
Oh.
it's looking good. Looking
Oh.
Ooh, not bad. Not bad.
That's a Smurf Phoenix right here, just
Yeah,
taking the
yep.
boss perfectly.
X-God getting in another 50 Mythium from counterattack, so it's now officially better than AOA. And then it's leaking to the income sins, and it's looking like a doomer for number 1 now.
I mean, it is not a full cover from Ashton, but it's important to know that Ashton is still very weak on 17. So it's gonna be probably the next aim of King Danza and Cyajin.
They barely live even with the full hold up by Ashton.
was closer than I expected, but yeah, I mean 3% King HP, they can work with that, but
I
the
think the Cinder
values
can be coming out on 17.
the values are just so weak on everybody.
Yeah.
Ashton
I
is
think everyone
pushing.
just goes 17.
Ashton is pushing suicide against Sayajin here.
Syed doesn't look that strong though. I don't know.
Uh,
He's got no damage. He does have some tank value, but he has no damage with it.
don't underestimate the tree of knowledge. That's my lesson.
Wave 17 though is actually one of those strong waves against Tree of Knowledge because it's arcane against the magic damage from the trees.
Yeah, but when they explode multiple times, that's where it becomes an issue.
It's
And
nicely coordinated by them though, because Xcot did not push a single worker after 15, so
Oh.
they
King
figured out
descending.
what to do already on or before wave 15 started.
Everyone's
So I
sending.
really like that.
And Saya is answering here with a full push of his own. He's realizing that Ashton is pushing slightly more than X-God, and X-God did not push a single worker, so they are going to try and leak X-God and win the race here. They still have a very small buffer in terms of time due to the King HP, but delaying longer than gates, I think we can assume that the gate is going to be very hard to leak fast.
Xcot did go for the full harden, so everyone is reading the wave 17 send.
Everyone is reading it. It is going to be Ashton leaking for sure. I do presume.
Xcot got a smaller send. Well, it got a larger send, but he has the most value and a lot of it is fortified. So maybe he doesn't hold, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be holding the longest. Leaks come out from Cyajin.
But
Kingdan. Oh, Kingdan's is holding. The Tantrum Master are enough.
And X-God is not holding. It's really King just
Oh.
holding
Kingdan's
here
hold
with the
longest.
Tantrum
Holy.
Masks.
They managed to pull it out.
I mean, the full push reaction from Sajin here, realizing that the X-God is not
They
pushing
needed to break X-God.
Yeah, and that's gonna give them the win on game 2 here. Kanan and Saya here was looking grim in terms of angle, but we said that Ashton was looking weak here, and they realized the same here and have Saya full push a little bit more, to push a bit more, reacting to Ashton being weak.
I feel like Ashton wasn't. He didn't need the full suicide, I think.
He didn't, he just pushed a little bit more.
It's also a very nice read by King, because you could imagine King already leaks income on wave 15, so you could imagine he's just out, but he realizes the spot that he's in. He also did not push a single worker, and that's why they ended up winning the game here.
Yeah, and
good read from number 1.
Another win for number 1, but now it's Cartel and Greed, no longer available for King Dan and Saya. For King Dan's, it's Cartel, and Saya, it is Greed. I think they're in a very good spot right now. 2-0 seems pretty convincing at the moment, at least. It's gonna be a rough one for Xcode and Ashton, because now they had the setting order that they wanted. They managed to keep the worker down on King Dance, but again, the angler difference here.
They were in a great spot until 15. Actually, they were
was popping off.
After 15. Yeah.
Sayajin was really popping off. He had many more workers in the early game than everybody else, and he also played something unconventional. So shout out to Sayajin. That's a very good performance right there.
And that's where you can get some advantages also when you play unconventional, because it's way harder to send onto something you don't see very often. You don't say, okay, this is gonna be a weak wave. I know. You need to really adjust on the fly here, and that's way harder to do. And so if you have this in your back pocket, this different kind of build, and you can play around it very well, then that's where you can really pull out ahead. And that's what Saya showed also, to enable also to protect King with the long save being onto him. So now that we've seen that here, what are we expecting in terms of Mastermind now? King Dance no longer Chaos, no longer Cartel. That's two of his most played Masterminds here. Do we see a Fiesta now from King Dance to keep up the aggression in terms of his Masterminds?
Ashton, it's been reported that Ashton is having PC issues, so they're going to take a small 5 minute break, maybe to restart his computer. And I wonder if he was lagging the whole game, and that's how they lost. Kappa.
Okay, so during the 5 minutes here, what I want to ask you guys is, w- how do you feel about the current form of the players here? Do we see them playing onto what we expect them to, or do you think that some players are underperforming right now in terms of holding or
I think
decision making?
everyone's, I think everyone's playing about how you'd see them on ladder. Uh, I, everyone's been having playable roles. No one's had some absolute garbage, but and everyone's been holding pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that was a very close game, and I don't think anybody was really underperforming there. I think Sayachan was shining that game. I like the approach of Ashton and Xcott that game. King was very low workers throughout the whole game, but yeah, King and Saya didn't do any big mistakes, so they managed to still pull it off. And yeah, I really want to see some Fiestas now because Fiestas is such a good mastermind option. And I also think Xcott is one of the better players to abuse it. So at least if somebody of the team has it, he doesn't necessarily need to play it. And I also think that King Dance is likely picking Fiesta in one of the next matches because he thinks it's also a very good spell.
Yeah, according to King Dance tier list, you have Chaos first, then you have Cartel, and then you have Fiesta. So if he follows it, then it's gonna be Fiesta on the next game.
Did he do a tier list? I didn't know
No,
that.
I think on stream he just someone was asking what do you think is the strongest mastermind. I mean, he just listed in order Chaos, Cartel, Fiesta.
I wonder what the better stand against against King Dance was in the last game. Maybe it's for a, maybe it's just more forays. I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, it's gonna be very difficult because APS Tantrum Mask is very difficult to deal with, especially on the Tantrum waves, because it's a lot
He
of.
only received a single forays. I think X got just what damage. Sure.
I mean,
Forays.
it could be, but it was still a very comfortable hold by
Mm-hmm.
King, so could have made a slight difference, but he would have still held the longest, I do presume. Um, so now the players are still not ready, but that's fine. So now we're in the part of we need to fill in the time, and we discussed a bit about the game, what we want to see. Um, anything else you think is were decided in the previous game? What was surprising, and yeah, what do you think was surprising in the previous games that happened?
Um, Chat is talking about how if Ashton sent Power Marksman by 13, they would have killed him even there, which probably would have worked actually.
Yeah,
The three cannoneers went through, but if those was like double fours or something, that'd be a lot more.
yeah, that's for sure, yeah. But I also didn't expect them to be in such big danger on wave 13 since King was on value there, creator shifting, and Saya had a villain doppelganger, so I'm pretty sure also Ashton didn't expect them to be in such danger there.
I I thought it was going to be Ashton Cannoneer leaks for Cyajin. He has no he has no damage for 13, no tech value, but eh,
I mean,
maybe
yeah,
he could have pulled something.
it's just always what you expect when you're in the game. When you're outside, yeah, you can see that, but in the game you have a lot of decisions to make, and what you want to spot is often those little details like oh villain doppel. normally very strong on 13, and then you look at King Dan's, he has a lot of magic damage, and when you look at those details, you're saying to yourself, oh, 13 is maybe not the best send against them, so maybe you scale and I try to break to get us some more gold or stuff like that, depending on the Mythium situation. So it's always kind of decision that in game, when you have so many stuff to look at, especially your build and your lines also, and you're under pressure, it can make the difference also. So you try to optimize the information you can get, and you try to spot those little things that make you make those decisions faster and stuff like that.
All right.
On the other hand, I mean, Sayajin is just 215 under, and he has Villain, and Ashton managed to leak him 83% with the Cannoneers. And the Cannoneers are a very effective sense against all his units besides the Doppelganger. Sure,
Yeah.
the Double Ogre probably is stronger, but still, he still managed to leak him with an income sense, so I think it's a bit rough to judge him here and say that
Yeah.
Ashton threw here.
It's definitely not a terrible idea to send the income, but that was potentially a game-winning decision if he said Powerworks.
Yeah.
All right, we are still waiting on Ashton. It's been a bit more than 5 minutes, so we're gonna have to dock him some points on that.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's giving a break to the players.
It's getting more drops.
It's
Exclamation
getting
point
more drops. But if you guys want to take a break, we can tell to the players that we'll come back in 2 to 3 minutes.
Mm.
So that Ashton has time to come back. I think it would be a good way to pass the time for you guys also to be ready to attack the next phase of the match. What do you think about that?
Ashton's might take a little bit longer, so we'll take a 1 minute break, I guess. I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
Alright, so we're gonna take a little break here on the caster while waiting for Ashton to fix his issues. But we will be right back with more action. It is currently 2-0 for King Dance and Saya. Xgod and Ashton need to make the game make a comeback here. They still have a 1 game buffer before game point. And so on that, enjoy the player info, and we'll be right back when Ashton is ready. Minimum of 2 to 3 minutes. So see you then, guys.
Take your time. See anything you like? Take your time. Take your time. See anything you like?
Ashton recently entered the game room, so the game should be going on.
So yeah, welcome guys. We're gonna go back. Uh, there we go. You should have Witherspoon 2 on the screen now. Yes. Okay, he disappeared for a moment, but he's back. So yeah, so Ashton is back here, and we did have a little break. Uh, and we're gonna wait if they are ready. They are ready, and so we will be approaching game number 3 here. We want to see a Fiesta. Will we see the Fiesta? Will it be on King Dance? Will it be on X-God? Or maybe on both, because we do have X-God sending onto King Dance yet again.
They definitely wanted this order, and we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if the moment they win a game, King Dance and Cyanogen swap the order back.
Yeah, I think it's a good order for Ashton and Xgod. I think that way, as we just saw in the last game, it's a very close way if King Dance is getting starved by Xgod.
Yeah, it's just controlling King Dance is what they are looking for here. King Dance really good at getting those advantages. The builds are always solid early, and we do know that Ashton tends to favor his own scaling as well. So we'll see if they decide to do something funky, and we're gonna have X-Gun on Cartel. Is that the Ashton Fiesta preparation?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Cartel Fiesta?
Oh,
Oh, no,
greed
no
again.
Fiesta.
Vanilla
Boring
Ashton
greed.
today. Third greed in a row.
Is it the third greed in a row?
Yep.
No, oh
Yeah.
yeah, it is the third greed in a row. Oh my god.
And King going for the greed here, not going for the Fiesta. Maybe keeping it for later here. But what will Saya do here? He doesn't have Castle,
There
and the
are
previous
a
game it
mix
was
of
greed.
aggressive.
So
There's a
he
mix of
still,
aggressive and defensive.
He still has Cartel, right?
yeah, he still has
Uh,
Cartel.
it does.
Oh, he's gonna go
Cash
for the
out.
cash out.
Oh, he has Anglers. Let's go.
When
Wait,
Witherspoon
he has
sees,
Angler Polywog.
yeah, I mean, if Witherspoon sees the angler in one roll, he's just happy to see it. But very nice AoE roll here for King Dance, I would say.
Do you
He's
really want to
got
play AoE against All Out Assault?
I mean, if you have an answer for 11 in Disciples, why not?
he is playing AoE.
Yeah, he had
He's
no
gonna be
choice.
opening the yeah. Looks like he's gonna be opening Flower Aqua, pushing 7 workers maybe. Figuring out something to fight for wave 5.
But yes, definitely the wave 11 is something to look for. But when you have a tank killer such as a Disciple, it can be less of a problem because you can deal with those Ghost Knights, those Rams also, with the pure damage of the Disciple.
X-God's going for a Fiesta start plus an Angler, so it's going to be a easy hold. He also has he also has Tempest with the Phoenix, so final wave 13.
Yeah, Xgod has a very strong role here. I'm a little surprised by Ashton's opener, seeing that he has a Gate Guard in his role and he prefers to open with the Archer.
I mean, we saw something similar with Adam's yesterday, that he was favoring a lot of this Elite Archer start. What do you think is the motivation behind that? Is it just because of the units, or?
I think a gate guard start would be a little bit awkward since he doesn't have pierce damage for wave 4. If he's starting gate guard and building some guards or whatever. So Elite Archer is definitely a lot safer on wave 4, but he'll have to figure out something for wave 5 instead.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. It's still a solid line. It's a solid opener. And he does push to 6 workers again here because he has the gargoyles.
And a second angler added for Sajent here. Preparing for the Butcher as an answer for 6 maybe? Or maybe he just goes straight out for the Harbinger. But then 5 is a bit risky. He does have the Seraphim for 5 however, so that might still be something he looks for.
Everyone is sending snails here, and we'll see if King Dance decides to push 6 workers. Well, the wave was a bit long, so he's just going to build here, I think.
But again, we see the same tendency here. X-God saving Mythium on King Dance, and will this be a straight 5 here against the AoE? Something that's heavily favored in the tournament currently, and I mean, often works very well. Over 60% leaks most of the time.
And saving into AoE can be very good. Because if they leak, then they oftentimes leak the whole entire wave. So that might be a nice spot for X-God here.
So this does
Ashton
enable...
received the
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Ashton received the double snails, but his guards let him hold comfortably with 6 workers. He's going to be safe till wave 6, wave 5 now, I think.
And I wanted to say that's also the advantage that X-God gains from that long save to 5 is that it protects the first weak wave of the Archer here for
Definitely.
Ashton.
X-God is doing the same thing as last game. He's a 5 worker bounty, even though he got sent on wave 3. So if he's getting a send, no, he's not getting a send this time. So he's gonna be stuck 5 workers for a little bit.
Yeah, that's tough decision making. I can understand. It's a full stacked angler, and yeah, but on the other hand, he's saving. So if he gets more workers, then the send could be a lot more crucial against King.
X-God might be able to afford a mole if he decides to send on wave 5. But King Dance already has the Fire Mill, and he can forge another flower, so I don't imagine he's leaking to that. Ashton receives snails and a strong wave.
Yeah, I think the mold is oftentimes a mistake against the AoE because the most important is to keep the wave alive. And so the Hermit has way more value against this small AoE at least, I would think.
Yeah, that's very true. On wave 5, the mole is just always worse than the Hermit.
Especially with the double output for the boss. Is King Dance full shifting? Oh.
I mean, that's the second flower.
Flower. Mm-hmm.
Maybe
going for the Drechia Classic.
Does he have enough to clear the wave here, or is it just not enough here? One flower is taking everything. Oh, that's not going to be pretty, I think. Oh, but
he's chilling.
I think it's a full hold. It's a full hold, I think.
Wow. Okay, Fire Elemental stronger than I expected here. I'm very sorry.
It's getting buffed. Don't worry. And X-God's in a rough spot now. His long save didn't pay off. King Dance is safely pushing until probably wave 8, right? It's not wait till wave 8.
I mean, is wave 8 really a problem when you have Bunk?
Yeah, exactly. He's in a good spot now. Brutes are coming out for number 1. See if Ashen is able to survive with this triple gate guards.
Oh yeah, people don't know, but Gate Guard have a lot of innate value, just because you gain so much more HP due to the summons. Do they have enough time though with the split is the other question.
I don't think the lead archer didn't take a single creep, so some of the gate guards are weak.
I mean, is it surviving?
It's not. It is looking like a leak, unfortunately.
Only one of the 3 Gate Guard getting a second summon. That's not what you want to see.
And then
even X-God is leaking while he was on very low workers. And yeah, he was low workers, he's cartel, he still leaks, so X-God is just totally out of the game already.
If Ashton's lead archer tanked 1 creep, I think it would have been a hold, but now it's not.
Yeah, that's normally what you aim for, right? With the lead archer tanking a little bit on 6, tanking a little bit on 7. It just didn't happen. Oof. Rough position, but we do still have one thing going for Ashton, and that's his 11 workers. But he's taking a risk with those because wave, he can still leak on wave 8 with the lack of tanks.
I think he might be shifting for a. He's building another gate guard.
How many gate guards do you want? Yes.
More of a kind. So I guess he's no longer strong on wave 8. He'll only be strong on wave 9, that's for sure. And he bets, is there going to be a Witch on 10 against him?
I mean, I don't think Witch is good on 10 even if you have this many gate guards, but it's definitely a rough spot for Ashton, and he's still pushing despite being weak on 8. I think he realizes their position that they need to make something happen and take risks. But that's gonna be punished by King Dance, I believe, here with the Sun on 8.
In comes Sin into Cyanogen, and he leaks just to income. He's probably fucked that. He's safe next wave. King Dance already has his bunk out, so he's also pretty safe. And
what do you think about this small sand wither? Do you think it's worth it when you see the bunk even shown here on this wave?
With that low workers and when I already see the bunk on 7, I think it's just grief.
Exile did get his Kingpin out, so he's plus Valley. He hopefully will be pushing a ton of workers, and maybe King Dance will be a little bit under pressure after this.
I mean, we've identified this as a rough spot right now for Xgod and Ashton, but what can be their line here? What can they look for to make a comeback? Because there've been a lot of income from Kingdom and Saya to try and leak them back. Do you think they have a window they can exploit now?
There is the Embargo 13 play that they can go for, and it looks like the Mole Hermit is going to work against King Dance.
Wait, what?
The Mole
Wait.
went left, but both of the flowers went right, and they were hitting a snail for the entire wave. Cyanogen also leaks the income.
Oh.
I did
And
not
we were
expect
just
that.
already. We just were like, okay, this game is over. And then suddenly Saya leaks income and the mole works. And yeah, everything looks different now because Ashton is chilling on many more workers than everybody else.
Did Exile receive a send last wave? Okay, yeah.
Yes, they all received income.
So, X-God is now safe until probably wave 13 as well.
Is this the only way the mask is the worst position ever on 8? Like it's just because of the mask or what?
I was expecting the mole to go right, to be honest, but maybe the snail messed them up some aggro.
Yeah, I think that was the big surprise. I don't
think you're supposed to split. I don't think you're supposed to split.
I think the split is decent if you receive a Ghost Knight, to be honest.
Yeah, the thing is, the range of the bunk is just much lower, so it will walk
Yeah.
up and yeah, the mole will go to the left side. It's not horrible because usually disciples take good care of safety moles. I think the biggest mistake that happened here was Cyanogen leaking to income here. I think Cyanogen should have just stayed over value, get his Kingpin on 8 and just snowball the whole entire game. But he overpushed, he had to add a Nightmare while he didn't have any arcane tanks on the board. And well, that's a huge mistake right there when King gets saved on.
I think he could have just built a. I don't know if he had enough gold. Could he have built a Badger instead for wave 8?
But then where's your damage? That's the issue, right?
Yeah, he has a mix of both. Mix of issues for both.
So I think the
think he
Viderson approach
didn't.
was the better one with going the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's a lot of assault with on the board here, but we do have King Dance going for the Haven. That is a very strong answer. But with a lot of assault, there's still a possibility of the Ram, and we discussed how. Oh, he's going for the 4
Force is
instead.
out already, so he is going to be testing the Haven on 11. Double fours for both Ash and Scott.
I mean,
We'll see.
this send is mostly just because he wanted to send something before income, but one could. Oh no, the ram is going into the split. Okay, I'm speaking nonsense. All right, ignore me. I'm speaking nonsense.
Looks like Ashen and X-God are going the AOA route, and King Dans and Cyajin are going to try the Protector route. See if they can hold well enough to survive.
I think holding is a possibility for King Dance. It depends if the split is working and the Bonk is tanking a little bit for the Haven. Will be interesting to see here.
Oh, it's straight in the
Alright,
Haven. Oh no.
on the Haven.
They
I mean,
reached the wave at least, so it's not as bad on wave 8 as on wave 8, but it's looking like a leak.
it's looking like a leak, but
Uh,
everything is low here. Oh, but Cyajin here.
Cyajin's also leaking. I think that's game.
Wow, nice.
Wow, okay. I mean, it's just
Okay.
at wave 8 here that we expected holds here, and
Yeah.
we just didn't.
And then they leaked.
Procasters,
Oh,
by the
boy.
way, we just totally assume
Yeah?
it's just for trills, but we do have here the first game going for Xgod and Ashton in this series, and we're gonna have a 2-1 in the series. And we've got a series on our hands here. We're not going for the minimal amount of games. We got at least one more.
Don't
Well,
we
two
have
more.
at
Sorry.
least 2 more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's two more. uh, pro, I mean, I know the format by heart, right? It's always best of 7, so we always are used to it. So we're gonna get the point here for Xgun and Ashton.
Ashton finally won on Greed. He can play a different. He is unlocked. He can play a different Mastermind now. As you know, you're not allowed to switch until you win.
I'm so happy though. I'm looking at Twitch chat right now. Wave 8 is about to pop off, and the whole chat agrees that King is never leaking on Wave 8.
Yeah, so we're not in the wrong. Yeah,
Oh my god.
be surprised as we
No.
did, but yeah, I mean, the Wave 8
Yeah.
was really crucial here to enable the line afterwards to Wave 11, because if they hold Wave 8 here, 11 is near impossible with that much more gold in their pocket.
Yeah, they can push a lot more aggressively. They're not scared 9 or 10. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, props to Exod to just shut our mouth and just prove the mold was fine.
Yeah.
I think if King Dance doesn't split there, he holds, but I'm not entirely sure. It was one snail distracting both flowers. I don't know.
That's fun to see that in Twitch chat as well.
Everyone
even
eating the
even
words.
Drachir was sure there's not gonna be a leak.
But yeah, I mean, this is this is very good now for Exo and Ashton. I think this is still a confidence boost here. But now
For sure.
it's King Dans and Saya deciding the sending order, and guess what's happening right now?
They flipped it back. What a surprise.
Yep.
But now I think with Ashton out of the green, I think
Maybe
Ashton
he'll play something different.
going
He'll
for
have to play something
Fiesta,
different.
extending the early game and pressuring the greed of King Dance with those workers could be the way to play here. I think that's what they were missing in the first few games when X-God was sending to Saya, is that Ashton was not really punishing the greed of King because he was forced into lower workers oftentimes, and that Fiesta can give him the confidence into pushing a little bit more workers and getting those uh, bigger sends, even if their income, bigger sends overall could make the difference here.
All right. Everyone's getting ready for the game 4. It's officially not a shutout, so that's good.
Yep. And what you mentioned here it's actually really important, Shadow. This is still game 3, so it's 2-1 now. and that's very good for the confidence because they know they would still be allowed to lose one game, and they just made a nice win here. So for sure, Ashton and Xgod have a lot more confidence now for the next games.
And the next game is upon us soon here. We've just started the loading screen, and it's gonna be game 4 here between #1 and Xcrash. So get yourself ready, set yourself up for a long one.
Fiesta,
Oh,
as predicted. Oh, let's go.
and it is
The
Ashton going for the Fiesta.
Uh, I'm not sure what you guys feel about about chaos with the Fiesta. It feels a little bit risky since you can't really guarantee any strong waves to hold.
I
I
don't
mean,
think it's risky. I
it,
think it's totally fine. I think chaos is fine every game. Doesn't matter which game.
mm,
It's never too risky.
and it comes down a little bit to what you've explained with Chaos and Castle. Chaos was there to protect the castle, but that's a little bit of the same idea here, I do presume, with the Fiesta.
But
Uh,
this is a very fortunate role for Ashton and Xgod here, because Ashton picks Fiesta into King Dance's castle.
Oh,
So
yes.
oh,
it's already favored for Ashton and Xgod. Just to explain it a little bit for the chat,
Yes.
with castle you're always happy to have fast early 10 waves to be able to reach your advantage faster after wave 10 with the income boost, and Ashton being Fiesta means there's gonna be long waves all the time, and King Dance will play on a disadvantage for a long time in the early game.
And
oh.
what I like, however, here for King Dance is that he has gun, but also very good early game units to pair with it. Gargoyle is one of the best on wave 3 as an answer, and the Buzz can do really well as a as a nature tank, sorry, for 5 and 6. So he also does the superior offset gun here, rather than the min one.
Though he does not have a T3, so he's going to be stuck with double gargoyles on wave 3. Uh, he would have gotten long waves anyway. Saya just decided on a 6-worker Crusher opener. So King Dance's castle is struggling a bit.
It is to note that Saya did not send on wave 1 either. Also, I want to point out here the role of Saya here. What do you think about it here, Vider? A lot of early game units here.
Yeah, I like Sayajin's role. The Crusher can be very strong with the cash out, so that's a good combination. It's a little interesting now, because Ashton didn't leak on 1, so he's not an obvious Fiesta, so Saya might not know that Ashton is Fiesta here, so yeah, everything is gonna be very interesting that game.
Double Harpy out for Ashen Butcher, so it's going to
Perfect.
be a small leak, I think, right?
Yeah, this
Oh,
is
Yeah.
this is
For
perfect.
Fiesta.
Really great for Ashton right now. This is enabling him to go 6 workers. Do presume he's gonna split here a little bit on wave 3, but we'll see. It's still a lot of Mythium that Saya can send.
And
Uh,
to talk about your role, about your question a little more on Saya's role, he's still, even though he has a lot of early game units, he still has a good scaling late game because he has Magician Zeus's with Daphnes and Boars behind that. So yes, it's cheap units, but he still has good scaling later on.
a
That's
lot of good
very good to
synergy
note.
together.
Yeah, that's very good to note. But
Uh,
no,
uh,
look
more
at
Harpies
this.
added for Ashton. Oh, single Garg. Aggressive King Dance.
Yeah,
I think
and
he's going to get punished for that.
it's gonna be 3 Snell, so that's leaking.
What do you guys feel about Harpies on the right side? I normally prefer them on the left because then you're not focusing a big sin like a ram.
On the other hand, in the early games, they help killing the dragon turtles that will be on the
That's
split
true.
side.
So it's just a question of what you favor in terms of early
Mhm.
game and late game. But similar size leaked here for both Ashton and King Dan's, but Ashton being on the Fiesta, pulling slightly ahead in this trade.
They are both 7 workers though, so King Dan isn't too unhappy with the long wave. 7 workers.
Yeah, and that's the power of the gun here. It enables you to push very heavily from 4 to 6 and still be fine if you have the proper answers. I'm a little bit worried that he's investing too much into gargoyles, but that is one thing you need to make a risk for if you're expecting a resend. He could have went for more preparation in the buzzes, but we'll see how well he does with those Snells first.
I don't think he had an answer for wave 6 or anything either, anyways. So gargoyles are kind of his best option for early game, unless you need like a reroll net or something like that.
Ashton wasn't quite sure what he should do with his 60 gold, so he decided to just push to 9 workers. And that's why he leaks 75% here. He should have just gone for another Harpy and another tier 1 unit, I think.
But it is going to be king damage against Saya and king down. Saya receiving the 120. But I mean king damage also on the other side here with X-God receiving the brute, but leaking only the brute.
I'd say right side comes out on top with this. They have Fiesta, and X-God only leaked the power mercs in.
Yeah.
We do also have the worker lead of Ashton, and he's keeping a wave. Ooh. You know when Ashton skips the wave, that's gonna be a little bit of a problem on the following wave with 9 workers.
You guys, I think it's gonna be triple brute on 6.
No. Ashton is not sending brutes. Ashton is gonna send Cannoneer.
Yeah, I mean, Cannoneer is one of the best against what he sees here. He sees the investment also on the Green Devil here. That indicates most of the time that you don't have a specific answer for wave 6 when you're having gun, and that can be an issue.
Yeah.
So no sense from everybody, and we're gonna have Ashton is gonna be holding. The Sky Queen is gonna be protected by all those harpies, and that's very good setup for 6 as well to minimize the leak. Gonna be a slow wave caused by Saya, and we do have the Cannoneer from Ashton.
Himself for Cyanogen, so he's trying to break Ashton Butcher. Ashton has shown nothing good for this wave, but with double Sky Queen, it might be enough. Not entirely sure. He's missing a lot of tank value.
How bad is your position in the game when you have this on wave 6?
Boy. He's prepping for wave 7, right? That's what he's doing?
I mean, this
the
will
gun
enable
even
him to push, that's for sure. But Saya does have the Zeus, as Peterson was about to point out.
Okay, gun is chilling. But yeah, king is definitely leaking here. I'm not quite sure about Ashton's decision making here. He prefers the second Sky Queen over maybe a Green Devil. But yeah, I think it's probably pretty
It's looking like a fine hold, I think.
Yeah.
2 creeps in the imp. That's
Oh, nice. With Fiesta, you totally take that
yeah,
all
you
the
take
time.
that.
And also
11
that's
workers.
good setup because he does have the opportunity to have only small tanks now, since he have that strong backline DPS. So adding small is easier now for Ashton.
Yep. See if Ashton decides to push more workers. He is pushing more workers. Maybe he's shifting a little bit now, since he doesn't really want to add. Otherwise, he might hold.
I mean, shifting for Avenger for his weak wave on 9 could be a decent choice, but he's going for more fortified here.
That's fine for 9 still. Oh, King ends with the trifecta.
Oh no.
Even though he had double Green Devil already, he felt scared enough that he has to build another one. I think it's going to be a wave 9 sit for everyone.
Seems
I hope
reasonable.
Ashton and X got skipped because they really can punish them on wave 9.
Yeah.
And I think with Sky Queen, this is something you can do if you have proper frontline. Ashton could invest into the casket if he wants to, since he has this frontline for 9. It's weak on 9, but if they want to skip, that might be worth it. But never mind, this is coming through for X-God.
Cyanogen is trying to punish Ashton, who has shown no tank value yet. So maybe he has to build a casket here. Casket upgrade at once or something? Oh. Oh my god.
He's making your favorite unit, Cracker, your highest performing unit.
It's not even my favorite, it just wins, I don't understand. He has so much HP. Unbreakable. It is a full send coming out. He decided to send the DT after income.
It's a hard league for sure. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, it's Fiesta. Maybe they don't know it's Fiesta, but yeah, they get saved on, and Wave 9 is gonna be very rough for Saya.
It's actually not a bad league. It's 50%.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, the cascade was
Ashen is-
crucial to buy a little bit more time here with the arcane
Mhm.
defense not tanking straight away, tanking after the send is gone, meaning that the HP effectiveness of the cascade was slightly higher here.
Cyajin gave them a long way, so now they're everyone's sending on 9. 3 ogres are getting sent to various lanes.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
god. He can afford the antler, but then he's got these things. They're magic damage, I guess. They're melee magic damage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they're
a rough
great.
spot. I was liking the early game of the gun, but it's just the overinvestment to gargle. It's the common trap. It's just
I think the push to 6 in wave 3 means that he's just leaking in long waves and no gold.
Saya might do really good here though.
Oh
He
yeah,
has
he has
two
the-
2 boars and the Zeus to kill things off.
so that's
But
gonna
there
be
is an ogre in the lane, so I think he's not holding.
I mean the Zeus is
Probably
a
enough
lot
to
of
kill the
damage.
waves.
It's gonna leak the ogre and the hermit, but
Mhm.
that's it.
And King
fine
Dan's
leak, but-
leaking the ogre, got focused a little bit, leaking 4 carapaces too. How is Xgod
Ooh.
doing? Xgod is just holding the ogre.
Wow.
Gate diff.
Wow.
And then Ashton gets another send, so he's now 19 workers.
Yeah, he's not weak
Gonna
on
be a
10.
little bit. Yeah. The recent mole coming out for Ashton. So
Very smart,
if-
very smart.
we'll see
They
if
know
King
that-
Dan's
I mean, he's not getting the big
Oh.
gun, right?
Yeah,
He's
they
not
know
getting
that
big
because
gun.
of the big leak, and yeah, that's why you can punish it.
And Sad only has 1 Daphne, so this is leakable. I do expect Xgod going for the mole after income here.
Ashton
There it
realized,
is.
oh, I have too much value, let's push 2 more. Ashton on 20 workers.
I do believe it's exactly like that he's thinking about it.
He's on shutdown though, so maybe he should not lead for shutdown,
But he's
if he gets
he's
the-
just holding. He has so much damage, and I think the Sky Queens are tanky enough to give themselves enough time also with an APS.
Mhm.
But on the other side here, 220 on 2 King Dance here. The Green Devil army is still giving some time, but the guns are still dying here. And in Saya, the Daphne is under attack now, and it's gonna be a very small leak here, but still some king damage.
That's like 10%, 20% king damage, I think. 2 moles.
So one thing
They
to
have
know,
Savior at least.
yeah, that at least, yeah. And
But
they,
then Saijin can't take his magician.
Yeah, Sayajin needs the magician for sure, but King can do Savior.
that is true. And we did have a no push from King Dance to enable him to go egg. Do you think the egg here will enable them to come back here and go for a pressure point on the wave? They can find Xgod and Ashton being weak.
I think what happens now is Ashton just pushes more workers and gets him 12 because he's not the strongest at 12 with an egg.
Do
He
you
does
really
have his
think
castle
12?
payoff now. Well, I think they split sims maybe. Beat up at 15.
So we'll see, because a split send is probably what Saya and King Dance would want to go long.
Are both guns dying?
Uh-oh. Okay, one is living.
Oh,
he should
one is
be alright.
alive, but yeah,
He has the Green Devil army for the magic DPS.
yeah. Magic DPS. Good enough.
Yeah, that is
And
looking good.
Ashton is not sending. I was wrong.
Oh,
Oh,
they
he is
are.
sending.
Oh! Yeah.
Oh. Well,
Now, is
big
that
gun comes up
good?
for King Dance. He's on value. He has good tank value, kind of. Good damage. Maybe it's enough. He's minus
I mean,
300.
Yeah, he's He's minus 350, right? With the egg.
Yeah.
And a little bit
So
more
he's
due to the
definitely
Green
leaking.
Devils. Yeah.
Yeah. But Saya can do good. I think he already has 5 Suzu with the Magician. Let's see. If
I think
Saya does
right.
good, then it's okay.
I think Saya's holding, but against egg is going to be popped by his own leak.
It's only packed mold here for Saya, so he's doing already a lot of damage. A lot of the creeps are gone. Tanks are gone, but only getting to the Zeus now, and he's clearing most of the wave though. So it's good.
It's a full hold, I think,
Yeah, it's a full
for
hold.
Cyanogen. But King Dance does leak. I
But
think they should have split Sent here. It's not worth sending Saya on the strong wave.
so what does this open up for Saya and King Dance? That's basically what they wanted here, to have an early send against the Egg of King Dance. So what does this enable?
I think everyone just goes 15 now.
X for
Uh,
king maybe.
King Dance has a little awkward spot right here where he wants something on that antler and the MPS, but there's no space.
Egg
Uh,
on King might enable a 14 send, and that could benefit Saya, but I think Saya is in a very strong position. Like 14 might be tricky, but if he gets a red eye on next wave, he could still do well. And Magician Zeus on 15 is quite a terror in terms of DPS if you have strong tanks with it. But it is
I
going.
don't
the
think they
other
want to
hand-
send against Ashton on wave 14 though. So
Nah,
I think
they
everyone
need
just goes
15.
15. Yeah.
King decides against the egg, by the way.
Yep.
But
He did?
no, Saya and King Dance both shifted a lot of gold here, so not showing their answer for 14.
And King Dance's answer is the gun he already had on the board. So
What do you think of the Doomsday here rather than a Red Eye here for Saya?
I think it's fine. It's
Nah. I don't like that. I think he needs the tank value. Okay, he
so
places it a
Doomsday
little more
is a
forward.
tank.
Yeah, so it tanks in front of the Zeus at least,
Mhm.
so that makes it better for sure.
Yep.
It's the arcane defense he needs for 14 and 15 as well, so good decision overall. But the presence of the Red Eye would nullify the presence of small unit sense where the Daphne and the Zeus struggles against, so that could be what he's looking for next wave.
Just got a firing line of ranged units. The Sens are coming out on 15. Double Ghost Knight against the gate for X God. I think that's a very strong Send.
I mean, that's the
He
Drakir
has shown no
special.
pierce damage. The Drakir special. He has no pierce damage, so that is going to crush him, I think. Ashen is also minus 600 with no good value on this wave. They might be taking a lot of damage here.
I really dislike the decision to go for leaks here by Ashton and Xgod. I think they just have to go income king because they are full HP, and Saya is not really looking very vulnerable here on 15, so I think it's just always income king here.
Yeah.
They risk losing the game on the spot.
So we will see Saya probably holding, but the bigger send on Ashton here does have the Magician Sky Queen, does have a decent frontline in the Sovereign Casket. The wave is thinning out here, but we're just now reaching the boss, and that's gonna be a substantial leak on Ashton. X-God dealing with the wave just now, but still leaking most of the wave. Or will it? Wait,
Good
the Ocean
old
Templar.
AoE gates.
Okay.
I think he's killing all the creeps, maybe? But boss is going through and they're taking a bunch of king damage.
Yeah, and while
Especially with only 2 attack up.
yeah, that's gonna be substantial. King Dan's the only one leaking on the other side. The Zeus army was enough here in terms of magic damage, but still reaching the king for some back and king damage. Now, boars on Saya, good damage on Saya. 17 seems pretty awkward for Xgun and Ashton to send on, so they have to skip it in favor of 18, but can they reach it?
I'm not even sure if you can leak Saiyan on wave 18. He's got so much magic damage with the Magician Triple Zeus. Especially with Daphne amping up every hit. King Dance also has egg though, so it's a bit awkward to go all the way to 18 and give him a free egg.
Look at the values.
Everyone
Saya.
is. I think X God's the only one with low value, right?
They're both skipping. Both teams are skipping 17. It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But then
We'll
what?
see if
What is the winning line here for each team? It's gonna be very awkward. Saya's build have very little weak wave. Um, maybe only lacking Swift Tank is the only weakness for Saya at the moment. So 18 seems to be the only wave I could see him potentially leaking, but the magic damage of the Zeus is still something to look for. And as predicted, no Sens on in 17 here.
Well, I think everyone's just gonna build for wave 18. Oh no, X God Ashton think it's gonna be 17.
I mean, Saya also thinks it's 17. He added 2 red eyes here.
Yeah.
But that's also because King Dance have 2 Phoenix here for 17, meaning that he's preparing a little bit more for 18.
Oh, Ashton sadly has no wave 18 unit. That's very rough.
I think if he puts that Sovereign in split, he has split at least.
And we're gonna see here X-God full hardening here on 17. How many games have we seen X-God just hardening the wave before the Sen happens here? A little bit unfortunate.
A bit of misreads from X God.
Yeah.
So, I think Saya is the only one with potential to hold. And especially since the sense of X God is so small. Why is this? Oh, he has shifting a bit with him.
Yeah. He's just waiting for a bigger answer. Could see a ram. No, it's gonna be the 4 eyes. What do you think of not protecting the wave against all the magic damage of the Zeus here?
I'm not entirely sure, but even a ram is going to get melted by all the magic damage. I don't know.
Saya is trying to get a split here. He built 1 red eyes on the right side. He deleted the middle units, so let's see if the split is working out. If it is, then it's very strong.
Well,
it's not, but I think he's still chilling. I mean, the Zeus army is just so broken on 18.
And on the other side, the Phoenixes. There's 2 Phoenixes down. There's still some of the wave remaining, but one of the Phoenixes still remaining should do enough damage.
It's a hold.
On the other side, you have X-God leaking. Same goes for Ashton. And that's gonna be game here. Game number 4 going to Saya and King Dance.
Wow, that's now I would say that's a throw. They had such big edges early on. Ashton was so far ahead. They had the luck to pick Fiesta into the castle, and they still lost the game afterwards. The wave 12 Sen was just.
I think on wave 12 they're supposed to split Send. You just try to pop the egg, and then that Ashton scale is 23 workers. But then X got sending into Saiyajin full hold means that Saiyajin push it. Ashton.
Yeah, split sending is always a hard decision. But yeah, I mean, if Ashton goes for the 12 cent and break the eggs, does that allow potentially a 14 cent against Saya and King Dance, which would potentially be better for you?
Yeah, that'd be fine too. Just split send on 12 and keep Saya pressured, because Saya has the better scaling rule, I think.
I would love to see to hear the opinion on Vitterson. What do you think would have been the better choice here instead of sending 12 together here, or even if they send wave 12 together, what is the next play here for them?
Well, I think if you look at Ashton's role, all you gotta do is prevent the enemies from sending on 15, because on all the other waves he's really strong. So I think they should just force 14. Forcing 14 is also very nice against Zeus's, because they are dealing all the magic damage, so you can just send a Kraken and a Mole, and then the Zeus will have a very rough time killing the wave. And King Dance is out anyways. He's not gonna leak hard with the APS gun, but he's not gonna be full holding against all the workers that Ashton has. So yeah, they, in my opinion, they really got hard baited by the egg and made a big mistake sending here. I think both of them should have saved. Then it's a 13 skip for both teams because Xcot and Ashton have just the great units to skip here. And then it's a forced 14, and that just plays so much in the hands of Ashton and Xcot.
Right. So you have it here, the explanation of Witherspoon on the situation here, and that is going to be a rough loss, I'd say, because they were so far ahead, as you pointed out. Uh, do you think they run it back here and go again for the Fiesta, or do you think it's gonna be a little bit different, knowing that the options left for King Dan's Legend are now limited quite a lot here, with uh, I don't remember what was King Dan's. It was a
King
castle.
Dance has played and won with Chaos, Cartel, and
So very limited for King Dan's now. What he can play, or maybe willing to play, is the better word. Word. So what would you expect now from King Dan's to play here?
I think King Dance goes back to the greed, the one he lost. I kind of think Ashton's going to play Fiesta again. They were able to get a pretty dominant early lead, and it wasn't based off of a weird Wave 8 leak. So if they just play a little bit smarter in the end game, they should be able to close the game maybe.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's very bad for the mental and for the motivation here if they know they had such a big edge now with the Fiesta and they still didn't manage to pull it off. But I agree, I think King will just go greed unless he sees a nice Fiesta angle. And yeah, Ashton, he might try even go for the desperate YOLO here. Let's see.
So Saya needs a little bit of time here. It looks like Ashton is gonna take this opportunity to restart his computer, maybe. It looks like.
Try to see if the other computers back online. I wonder if King Dan's Cyanogen are going to play YOLO. They have 3 games to make YOLO work. 3-game buffer.
Do you think YOLO is worth it in this position in this tournament, or do you think it's just fallen a little bit out of favor due to the many additions of units and many possibility of synergies that are quite crucial?
I think that's part of why Chaos is in favor right now, is because there's so many strong units at once.
Yeah.
Not being able to pick with the YOLO is definitely a big.
Yeah, that's very true. I think you should not really be picking YOLO at the moment, especially in tournaments. If there's still good options available, like for example Greed or Fiesta. So yeah, I think YOLO. I mean, you can gamble it since you're up 3-1. If you get a nice roll, then it's obviously very nice. But I don't think in a tournament where you already proved that you can be ahead with normal picks that you need to gamble in that spot.
Yeah.
So I think that if there is an aggressive spell on the board here, we will see a Fiesta on the side of King and Seiya to try and get a swift victory with early pressure. I think that's gonna be their aim with so few mastermind options chosen, remaining, sorry. And Ashen and Exion, if they read that, could potentially go for safer mastermind options. I mean, Xcode is out of the cartel, but he can go for the cash out. And Ashton, I mean, he loves his YOLO. He has bonus income with it. And yes, maybe you're not in a position to. It wouldn't be good to pick it and gamble it on the YOLO. But Ashton, being such a prominent picker of YOLO, could be in his comfort zone, and returning to comfort in those kind of situation when you're down could be the better avenue as well.
I agree, yeah.
All right. Chad is mentioning that gargoyles were pretty good on Wave 15. Dan.
Yeah, I mean the early game could have been smoother, I think, if King Dance invested into a bit of buzzers. I think wave 4 he overinvested a little bit of gold for the gun. It's fine if you leak a little bit on 4 with gun, if you set up yourself better for 5 and 6, which are the more crucial wave. So
Yep.
overinvesting into the gargle, well, maybe a slight mistake by King Dance investing into one buzz to have a consort for 5 at least, to have a nature tank, which is what he was missing. And then yes, you can have a green devil for DPS. It's a very strong DPS early game, especially in gun builds, but I think it was just the small hiccup that happened. But it's very hard on the spot to make those decisions because you're in a tournament, you're under pressure, and you don't really want to make the game losing play. Uh, and it's really about taking advantage of edges and being willing to go for those edges can really make or break the tournament chances. And so I can also understand why he went for those gargoyles.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a little tricky with gun all the time. If you're getting income sense, you kind of want to push, right? And if you push, you have like 50 gold spare, and if you don't have or maybe 80, 90 gold spare, and if you don't have any units, any tier 3 units, then it's always tricky with gun. And especially in that game, I've been there as well with gun. It's always a little tricky there.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Shadow. If he gets a consort on the board at some point, it's just very much easier to play it out. But yeah, it's also tricky. And in the end, they still managed to pull it off. So
Yeah.
we also got to compliment King and Saya here. Especially, one more time, I want to shout out Saya here. He was just the unbreakable guy this game with
Oh yeah, I do agree. Yes.
a very interesting build that we don't see too much anymore with the Zeus and Boars. But yeah, he saw the Magician angle, he had a nice cash out Crusher, 6 worker opener, everything very cleanly played. And for example, wave 9, he got a 280 cent and he only leaked the Ogre and the Hermit. That also was helping a lot here.
And that shows especially the strength of synergy. We saw how many weak units he had in his role. Um, Not weak, cheap unit is a better word. Um, but just with the synergies available to him, he was able to gain way more value than the value itself of the unit. So it was a good
Yeah.
recognition, as you point out. But enough talk about the last game because we are going to game point here for Saya and King Dance. Can they make it end here on game 5, or can X God and Ashton make it through for the comeback play here? We're going into game 5 here. Let's go.
There are no aggressive spells, so probably won't be seeing the Fiesta. And we don't.
We're
King
gonna
Dave's back to
have,
his greed.
yeah, agreed on King Dance. So that's what you talked about, returning to that. Uh, Saya going for the chaos. You said he was capable of it. Here to put out a similar performance, or at least use it into some extent. But the surprise here, I think, for everyone, is the pick for Ashton. Going for chaos.
He does have a pretty stable opener. Oh, he already pushed 4 workers. So
The,
what's
this is this a Fiesta bait? This
I think it's
positioning
fake
of
Fiesta.
atoms leaks. I think it leaks four creeps on one.
It's definitely fake Fiesta. Well, obviously he didn't pick Fiesta, so
Yeah. But
yeah.
oh, what do we have here? Lane 1 here.
It's not castle, so but it is going to be a lot of scaling.
So I think we're gonna focus a little bit on that here. The other lane seems quite obvious what's happening. Saya going for the Fire very strong opener. Ashton is going for the fake Fiesta. And X-God going for the 5 worker gate guard. He's gonna have an answer in the Sea Dragon. But Sakura here, crucial in the early game. What do you think of the role of King Dance to support this Sakura?
I think he has good arcane tank. He has a good tank for 7, and he has a melee tier 3 for any long saves they might do in between them. He also has Disciple 47 as well. I was gonna say a bunk, but not terrible.
To note, both Ashton and X got the Snell in income.
They were both 5-worker openers basically, so I'm not too surprised. Oh, X got pushed to 6.
Wait. Oh,
Is he
okay.
going to add a
He still
ranger?
gets the Ranger, so that's kind of good still. But now the extra gold was in favor of Exod and Ashton. Both King and Saya weren't able to send on wave 2 here. I mean, Saya could have, but decided against it. That opens up maybe a 4 send against the build of Exod. Will Saya go for it, or will he go for income on wave 3?
King Dance is able to safely push 5-worker and probably just add a single seedling, but he's going to be a little bit vulnerable to maybe a double DT send on wave 4, so he'll have to prep for that.
He can add 1 Warg and 1 Blob maybe, so I guess he's gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards he can push really hard usually.
Ashen is continuing with his Fiesta bait, adding a single guard.
I mean, it's not really a Fiesta bait at this point, it's just because King Dance was on low worker early, and he knows that he cannot really receive big on this wave, and Gargoyle is a strong unit on wave 3, so solid, strong early build. Will be in a bit of danger on wave 4, but that said, he does have Answer in his Chaos now.
Yep. He skillfully rolled a Warg, which is one of the best units for wave 4, I'd say.
And everybody going for income here. X-God not trying to force the leak on the Sakura, expecting King Dance having an answer, which I think is a fair assumption for early waves against the Sakura. But then you need to force something else, right?
King Dance pushed a worker here. Wow, he pushed
King
the
Dance
6
pushed
workers.
Yeah, there's in the 3. Has a solid seedling, so he would have leaked a DT, I think.
Yeah, could have been a possibility.
80 coming out against Ashton. I think it's a hold. Looks like he has decent split tanking. Oh, no, his Warg is not tanking.
The Varg is not tanking on Ashton, and that's gonna be
Both his atoms are dead.
no more DPS means that's gonna be a leak on Ashton again. Does he get a worker advantage out of it? Not really compared to King Dance at 8 at the moment with the Sakura.
Yeah, and King can even push to 9 now.
Okay, so now there's a tricky spot here with Sakura on King Dance. Is it
Recent
wave
Brute
6
Sergeant.
or is it wave 7 against it?
I wouldn't mind a Drake on 6 into a Recent on 7 for X-God if he gets the Drake, of course. Though he is at 6 workers. I don't know if he's going to have enough. Ashton might be leaking to this Brute Snail. Looks like he's shifting.
X-God, you mean? The Brute is going
yeah,
onto
Brute Snail.
X-God lane.
Oops.
It's okay. But yeah, I know X-God loves to send on 7 against Sakura, so King Dance shift, if he reads that, if he knows the habit of X-God, could potentially shift on 6 to get the Avenger on 7, which is one of the better answers he has in his role for this wave. But if he wants to play it safe, still has the avenue of the Slime Siren as a good and decent option.
Yeah, I think it's just Slime Siren on 6 into Disciple on 7. I think that's the cleanest line with the lowest amount of risk.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Can't afford the Slime Siren though. He's coming.
He is sending the imps to try and break Ashton. He is going for that Slime Siren and income from Saya. And there is that skip from X-God on wave 6.
I think if you can't afford a Drake, it's wave 6.
Yeah, he could have, and that could have worked here, but X-God favors the heavy leaks if he can maybe get it. But let's see if it's gonna be effective here. We have Ashton still with the Gate Guard army here. 2 Gate Guards now on his board. Will he build any more of them? I think the answer is gonna be yes, but maybe not next wave.
Both of them are gonna summon this time though.
Yeah, that's the
But it's still a leak.
still a leak. Yes, it's gonna be the Imp +3 here, so very effective send by King Dance, giving him a little bit more gold. That's gonna give him Disciple plus a split adjustment if he wants to, or maybe something else that we don't really see often. Maybe the Alpha Male to counter some of the Brute Sand possibility or the Mimic Sand. And that's going to be the Alpha Male decided at the moment here, deviating from the Disciple damage and going for the resistance, giving more time to the Slime Siren for the DPS against the Mimic Sand.
It is identifying a mimic set is pretty important. Well, identifying that it's going to be a brute or mimic good enough for the alpha male, I guess.
I mean, the Alpha Male is still quite a lot of damage. The advantage it gives is just the resistances from pierce damage, and that protects the Slime Siren and kind of prevents you from being run down. Sakura, do you live? Do you live? And
It is no.
it's gonna be no. It's gonna be a substantial leak from King Dance here on this wave. 99%, maybe bigger than we wanted, but it was still a large send.
Xcot did get initial 18 gold from eating all those slimes, and you might get a bit more here.
He gets more. He gets so much more.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, that's a lot more. We're at 30 at
Mimic
the
is pretty
moment.
good, I'd say. Good old 70 gold Mimic. Not bad.
So the biggest thing here is that yes, King Dan's leak, but he was on 9 workers before wave 7, way before wave 7, and Xgod is currently at 9 workers. So yes, it's economic damage on King Dance, but he still is in a good position in terms of income. So I don't think it was as bad as the leak intended it to be, but it's for no mean bad for Xgod for sure because of the extra gold he got from the Mimic. Now it's just a question, does he hold wave 8 now?
Ashton went for a gate here on wave 8. It's a little risky, but against the Mole Sand, the gate is actually really not bad.
It's not bad. The gate guards are both summoning as well here, giving a little bit more time here for the night crawlers. Still going to be
But
early.
he didn't protect his Adam, so no damage here.
Yeah, and we're gonna have Xgod holding wave 8 here for Ashton, and will now take the lead in terms of workers with Saya both at 12. Now we're gonna take a look at the builds shortly after to know a little bit what is the intention of both teams.
I think it's a wave 10 send for Ashton X God, but I'm not sure what King Side will be doing. They don't want to be sending 10 against a double Daphne for X God.
Well, they hear you, and that's gonna be double brute from Saya, but King Dan's gonna save here.
Split sending is a lot more common before wave 10, since after wave 10, people tend to go for more kill blows.
Did Xgod overpush here? He doesn't really have a good answer for this wave. Like, what he needs to do is add another gate guard, but is that really great? He's preparing for 10 here.
I think that's fine, as long as you're splitting, your Daphne should stay alive.
Yeah, and you also want to overpush here because you really want to punish your opponents on wave 10. Because that's maybe one of the last shared weak waves that they have right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, King Dance does recognize that it does stay a little bit overvalued, but yes, most of that value is onto the Sakura. The brutes here, both brutes being sniped here from Xgod, is gonna leave only 4 creeps.
Yeah, it's a very good split tanking with the Daphnes to keep them both alive to kill the Brute in time. And King Dan's went for the Ecosynth here, and X-God and Ashton are going to go for breaks.
Gonna go for breaks, that's a 4-eye from Xgod.
Yeah, I like the 4-eye.
It's not the best against Slime Siren, but hopefully it never hits the Slime Siren.
I mean, it does put focus on what is strong on this wave, right? You're having the nature tank that you want to get through, but most importantly, the Avenger that can give a lot of time into from many sands. But 4-eye is not one of the sands that give you a lot of time here. So.
By the way, Saya skillfully rolled the Daphne and the Berserker here.
It's no
True.
longer weak on 10.
Now where is the Zerker? Let me try and bring it out here. The Zerker is still not focused, still at full HP, and that's gonna be a boss clear. It's not tanking, but that's a boss clear from Saya. And the Daphne is gonna help here in terms of DPS against the Ogre. Does it kill it? It just barely doesn't. Or it does. Oh,
It's dead. Oh,
Does
okay.
and only the
Single
4
4
eye
eyes
from
leak.
King Dance.
Game
Ashen.
over.
Yeah, this is looking very rough.
I mean, it was recognized by King Dance that the Sen was coming on 10, so he didn't push as much. Saya, uh, maybe a bit lucky to roll both anti-10 units, but still was able to hold here the big Sen from Ashton in next go.
Now Sergeant has the Chaos Pawn Shop, so it's going to be exceptionally hard to get an advantage back for X Crash.
Yeah, Ashton does have the same. He does have a potential strong build here with the Tree of Life, Hellgate, and White Mane, but that's a lot of gold, and I think this is gold he will never have time to get.
Sergeant's sitting at 23 workers, 10 higher than X God. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Sayajin is smurfing this series. Sayajin is playing really good. He didn't. Yeah, in terms of elo, he's the lowest here, but you really couldn't tell.
Yeah, I mean 23 workers, what does this indicate to you? Where do they want to go here? With 23 workers, that's gonna be a 12.
I think 12 is reasonable. Ashton has shown no pierce damage basically, and X God has kind of pierce damage, but also no tanks.
Alright, do we have a Vulcan cannon being built here from Ashton? Hard to place in the middle of the game, but no, he's going to go for Hellgate here. And we have Harbingers on the side of X-God.
King Dance did not send magic damage, so with the tankiness of the Harbingers and the Hellgate damage, he might do pretty well here.
I mean, we'll see. They didn't push after 10 here also, so their values is quite good. But the pierce damage is lacking, as you've said. So we're gonna see here a little bit how they do. If they hold here, they can aim for 14, maybe aimed at Sakura, but Sakura might be over focused here by me.
I really don't like the column 4 positioning of that Atom from Wave 1. It's died every single time since then.
Yeah, for Ashton.
Yeah, for Ashton.
But we are going to see Ashton leaking to the Sen. I mean, Gate's not the strongest on 12. We're gonna see also a leak from X-God. They do survive, of course, because they are full HP. They saved Mythium. Now they just need to make so that they make something happen with this Mythium to get back the advantage of this game. But it is very hard to spot at the moment. We're gonna stay a little bit focused on Saya and King Dan's build to try and find a weak wave. To try and see what is the idea behind X-God and Ashton saving now.
X-God pushed 4 workers after that sin, but he's still 5 workers, but he's still 5 workers behind Saya, and I think by the time Wave 14 comes around, Saya Sin might be the same size as X-God's.
And Pound Shop Chaos is good for one thing, and that's covering weak waves, right?
Of course, that depends on if you roll anything for it.
So yeah,
6
Sayajin
options.
finds the Doomsday here paired with APS. Very, very difficult to leak on wave 14. But I think that the idea here with the Tree of Life Sovereign from X-God and Ashton was to go 15, but the values are already looking awkward for Ashton and X-God to skip potentially wave 14, especially with a gate build on their side.
He also did not roll a single arcane tank for wave 14, so he's definitely very scared.
So they skip 14, but so does King Dan and Saya, recognizing that matching them on 15 might just give them the win, and I think they are not mistaken with, again, X-God hardening on the wave before the send comes through. Really unfortunate, but it is it is a reasonable assumption that the Sen might come here on 14.
Yeah.
He can pawn shop next wave.
Oh,
That's
true,
also why I'm very. I don't understand why he didn't harden on 12. Like the 12 sent by King and Saya, it really gave Ashton and X-God a small chance to come back, and they both were basically on value. Both of them didn't really respect 12 at all, even though they had pawn shop. So if one of them would have held here, if one of them would have respected it a little bit for almost no risk because of pawn shop, then they still would have better chances, but they dropped so much king HP on 12 that now it's looking rough.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We didn't spot here that he didn't harden, so thank you for spotting that. And we're gonna have here a lot of magic damage from King Dance, a lot of tank value in the Sovereign. It's looking very grim and very hard to break on this side. And Saya, what did you find here? An Ocean Templar looks like is better option.
Look at X-God's lane here.
Oh, X-God? Well, that yeah, he punch up for
That is-
veterans.
That is some pawn shop action, but
You just remembered he has pawn shop.
I don't think he's gonna be holding -1000 though.
Yeah, I mean it's probably the best build you can build for with his units for wave 15 in terms of typing, but I don't think it's gonna be enough here. Unfortunately, the Needler shredding through the arcane defense.
Yeah, it's looks like a game.
It looks like game here. Ashton not able to clear much of the wave either, and we are going to have our first winner of the Nekomata Cup despite the leaks here from Saya and King Dance. The leaks are enough against Ashton and X-God to finish off the king here, and it's going to be #1 here going for the first Nekomata Cup win here. So congratulations here to them, and very well played overall, I would say, across the series.
It wasn't a shutout, at least.
Yep. I expected
were-
it to be a little closer though, I need to say.
They were in such a big advantage on game 4, but they picked ascending order on wave 12, 14, 15, whatever, that managed to quander their lead.
But yeah, I must say you are right to praise Sayajan here on this series. He was showing form also with King Dance on the previous day when we casted their game, and he kept on showing with King Dance. So very very good to see them paired together and doing well together as well. And no Fiesta from them potentially gave them more stability as well. I know both of them are in favor of picking Fiesta sometimes, but they wanted to play it safe. They realized they didn't need it, and they played standard and strong, and they came out ahead.
Games were just standard gameplay was working out really well for them, so they feel the need to play any Fiesta. No cheese needed.
Yeah.
No cheese. Now I wonder if they would want to join us for an interview if they are willing to. So I don't know if either of you can maybe contact them and ask them if they want to join us.
I can switch over to the Discord real quick and ask them.
Yeah, all good.
I know that they don't have the channel here that we are in right now, so we probably have to
we can
switch channel
move.
for that.
We can move below to one of the game lobbies.
Alright, let's do that. I'll ask them real quick.
All good.
Let's move down to lobby, I guess.
Yeah, the maybe just game room 1 is better.
Okay, sure.
All right. So,
I-
are you surprised by this result, Quacker, or was it something you were
I'm not-
expecting?
I'm not too surprised, but I was expecting more games won by Scott.
They will be joining us in 2 minutes, so we can maybe talk a little bit and then they join us.
Yeah, all good. And really, I think it was just the controlled gameplay that came out ahead. The early pressure point from X-God and Ashton weren't really working out too well against King Dan and Saya. because they were covering themselves super well. That's something else that we didn't really point out, but every game, Saya and King Dance add very little common weak wave, and when the style of X-God and Ashton is mostly towards aiming those weak wave, especially with X-God making some of the calls in this, most of the calls in this team to aim for those weak wave. If those weak wave does not translate into king damage, that's where you're gonna really struggle a little bit more in the game, and that was very well uh, exploited by King Dan and Saiyajin by covering themselves pretty well, and Chaos did help a lot with that too.
The chaos roll on 10 for Saiyajin to hold was pretty critical.
Sorry, I'm adjusting so that they can see your face, Vidgerson, on the stream because we changed channels. So just gonna
Oh,
Change positions in the Discord.
I think it's whatever, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit whatever, but there you go. You have Vidgerson on stream now. But yes, what do you think about this series, Vidgerson? Where do you think it was a great showing, a great showing by Saiyajin and King Dance, or and a good utilization of the mastermind options? Um, and what do you think about what uh, Ashton and Xcode were able to bring in the table today?
So I think King Dance and Saya played a very clean game. They didn't have any obvious big mistakes, no blunders, nothing like that. I think one edge for sure, now that I skipped through all the match histories in the last couple of games, is I think Xgod is not quite playing meta comps too much. I think Xgod is choosing units or builds that are not as strong as other builds. And now, after I've skipped through some of the games or all of the games, he has some Ranger Daphne games, he has some Gate games, and all those units are not really able to snowball too much. And I think that's probably one flaw of Ashton and Xgod, that so far it seems like Xgod is not able to carry games. Also because of the units that he's picking.
I, I I don't think he's trying to carry the game though. I think he's mostly just trying to starve and
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not
that's an
be
issue. If
too
you
heavy.
only
Yeah.
have one strong point you can play around, that's where you can struggle a little bit, and that's the point of
Yeah.
Bitterson.
Yeah, and in the other team, we saw that Sayajin is perfectly able to carry the game if King is getting saved on.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So they
that's
need
a
more
very
flexibility.
the flexibility is
Uh,
important, and we're now going to have King joining us right now, and I'm gonna say right off the start, welcome King, and congratulations on
Yo,
winning the
yo.
first Nekomata Cup.
Yeah, thanks.
Just your sound.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh
Hello.
yeah, hey Saya, congratulations to you too of winning the
Thank you.
first
Thank you.
Nekomata Cup.
You idiot. Good job.
Are you a little
Alright.
bit mad?
Mad?
Why are you mad,
What for?
Anderson?
I don't know. I don't know.
Why
For
are you?
fun.
Not really.
Why are you angry?
I didn't know what to
Am
say
I
in the
mad?
stream.
What am I mad?
But yeah, good games by you two. The how did you feel approaching this game going against Ashton and Xgod? Did you feel like you needed to adjust some strategy, or did you feel like your initial initial play, how you play normally, would be sufficient against them?
I don't know. I feel like we just kept on doing the same thing that we've always been doing. There's nothing special that we really prepared for them.
Um, okay, and how the we saw how Cyajin was able to do very well in those games, and like how this changed how you were approaching. Did Saya step up into making more calls, saying, "Okay, I'm more confident into holding this wave, and we can go a little bit longer." I know there was a lot of wave 12 cents against from Xgon and Ashton in this series. And was this a factor into what you were planning ahead in the mid game?
I honestly didn't even know that. And like, I wasn't watching their games. Like in general, I'm just an intuitive player, so King is kind of the same, I would say, just a little better maybe. um,
Uh,
no
how do you
special
feel?
like preparation or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for them, Viderson? I know you're close to both of them, so
Was
maybe you.
didn't Quacker just want to ask
Oh
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
you can ask first. Yes.
How do you guys feel about that bunk game that leaked full on wave 8? That was a bit unfortunate to say.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was kind of hoping that the mole would go into the split, but it didn't.
I
I
must
So
thought
it
the
admit,
was
bunk would
fucked.
split.
I
Yeah.
must admit, I throwed a little there, but it was like while I got the send on 7, I told the king I'm still gonna go for the pin to cover you since you got saved on, and he was just like super confidently saying, "No, I will be giga fine. I have a bunk." Then I was like, "All right." Then I
It
just
was
pushed
the
for the
same.
Nightmare and maybe Pro League, and he was just okay. And yeah,
I mean, we have to say
that's
it
the
was a
story.
leak made by a pro player, so it was a pro leak in the end.
We
I
were
thought the
all sure that you're easy holding king. We were talking about Xcode sending a mole here when he already sees a bunk on wave 7. So we were all like, okay, why does he send for a leak here? It's just an easy hold. And even the Twitch chat, all of them said, even Drachia said, oh, why does he always send power mercs? He needs to realize it. And then he leaked so hard, nobody expected it.
I think it's because both flowers went right and they were stuck forever in the snail.
Yeah. Just everything went wrong there.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate here, of course, in this game. Um, but yeah, overall, still you managed to. I know. Wait, that was the game that you lost here because it enables them to go for 11 afterwards. So it was really a turn into the series here, allowing one more game at least. Um, and I mean, yeah. And then Viderson, what do you have any questions for them?
Kingdance, what would you say is the strength of your teammate Sayachin?
His strength, and that
Mhm.
he's just overall a very good player, I would say. At least in tournaments.
If he wants to, right? If he wants to be
Yeah,
good.
if he wants to win, he's going to win.
What I would.
Especially you two know my heads up win rate, so I rarely become second.
The Poker Pro showing off how good he can be if he wants to. What I really enjoyed in those games, Sayachin, um, is that you were also playing unconventional stuff and being very successful with that. How did you get the idea of, for example, playing the steeds together with the exploding trees?
Well, I don't know. I didn't see another option there. Like, I was planning on not to build too many of them, so I can get advantage with my Hades later on. Yeah, but like, meanwhile they weren't sending when I expected, and then I ended up having a little more than I wanted. But it went out fine. I even wanted to Pro League later on wave 16. I didn't know how broken it is actually with the Villain Nightmare, if you have 3-4 of them. Like
Yeah.
almost all the wave was already cleared. I was think minus 900 or 1k or something and just easy clapped the wave.
Yeah.
While
I thought
suiciding.
it was super interesting in your role selection because if I remember correctly, you also had a Sakura in that role and you also had a gun opener in that role. And I wasn't sure if it's a mistake, if you maybe wanted the villain nightmare too much and go for that role, but you were snowballing really hard with something that I didn't see, so
I
very
thought
impressive right there.
it can be a very good early push, especially with the tree, because I can manage to easily hold on waves like 3, 5, 7 as well, because the explosive 3 on 7 is actually a really nice unit. And
Looking
the only
look at
mistake I did there was rolling away the Avenger. I had no answer for 13 later on, and that was
Mhm.
very bad. I should have kept the Avenger and at least have something against it.
looking at your early role, I can see why you didn't play Sakura. You had a Steed as your arcane tank, so that's a bit awkward.
Yeah. I think I was at the buzz or something, which I didn't really like. nothing good really against 7. I think that's why I didn't do it.
What do you guys think was the most important win in that series? What was the toughest or most important one?
I would say the one game that we almost lost,
Yeah, against
where I
Elbon
played
and
Kartal.
Popsky.
Oh, you mean
Mhm.
before? Yeah, I
Oh,
was talking about this series.
we're just talking about the final.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
final series that we just
Okay.
saw.
Yeah, I think it was like we were up 2-1, and then it was a super close game, I think, where I
Mhm.
played the Cartel opener with Kingpin and Real Workers. I think
Oh
that
yeah,
was very important that we go up 3-1 instead of going 2-2.
that was the
Mhm.
Villain Nightmare game.
Yeah, where Ashton was going for the Fiesta game. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Oh, that's a different
No,
one.
not this one.
no.
This is the one where King Dan held
Ashton
with
had
17 with
Ashton had
Phantom Dust.
Phoenix Tempests, where he held 15 really big sun, but they
Oh
still
yeah. Oh,
dropped
sorry.
to like
Sorry.
3% or something.
Sorry.
No
I
problem.
was thinking about your gun game, King. Your gun Green
Did you
Devil
like
game.
it?
Give us a little talk through that game and how do you think, or how did you think in the early and mid game your chances were to win the game?
I mean, early on, I was definitely getting a lot of pressure from Ashton because I didn't expect him to push so hard. But since he had Fiesta, he could do it. But then late on in the mid game, I felt like we were doing pretty good because I actually had a very good role with the APS and Phoenix and the eggs. So we could really like bait out sends or get a free egg.
And Boazus is back, seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Magician. Sadly, I
Yeah.
didn't roll like a Star Call or APS or something for it. Or at least Rogue Waves. But it still went out Giga nicely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I feel
ask
like
you.
that
Oh,
was.
yes. Go.
Sorry,
No, no, it's
Shadow.
okay. If you can finish your thought, I'm gonna ask a question afterwards. More generally.
Yeah, I feel like that was just a must-win game for Ashton and Xcot, just in terms of the mastermind roles that you had this game. Super unfortunate to pick Castle and get sent by a Fiesta player, and then also with your role, which was super expensive, the gun and the Green Devils, it was a very awkward spot, and I think the enemies had to play that out better than they did. Do
Yeah,
you
for
agree?
sure. I mean, I could have also done a different play on wave 7 and just shift for the big gun, but I just decided against it, because otherwise I think I would have also been pretty fine for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's always hard to make those decisions, especially when you are under that much pressure. But more generally, like we've seen a lot in this tournament, how chaos was favored. What do you think of this mastermind, and what does it? Why does it show up so much more in tournaments nowadays, and even in the latter games a little bit more often? What do you think that is? What would you qualify it to be strong with?
I would say that overall the meta right now is that you basically go for like a two-shot kill where you get some early damage and then finish people later on. And this has led to a bunch of like overbuilding or just generally being safe early game. Which means like the high pressure that Cartel used to put on people just doesn't really work anymore because people hold anyways. And so you would rather just go for like a safe option. And I think Chaos is just really strong because it's like one of the few masterminds that can really pull off some insane holds in the mid game. Because it can find all those broken combos that you otherwise can't.
And especially if there is pawn shop in the game as an option, it's actually almost unbeatable, I would say.
Do you think it's a good comeback mastermind with Punch Up and Chaos together, or if you're behind in the approaching the mid game, you're gonna struggle when having Chaos and a Punch Up game still?
I think you can, like, it can go both ways. Like, depends also on your teammate and how game's going, what's your king HB and so on. But eventually with Chaos and Pawn Shop, you can end up having really broken builds for the late game and basically be unleakable if you manage to hold your value high enough.
All right. And a final question for me. The others can ask other question. What do you think about the Nekomata Cup in general? What do you think about the time zone and how they try to reach out for other communities across the world, more towards Asia and Australia. What do you think about this decision to explore the Nekomata Cup time zone?
I think it's definitely a good idea, so that other people can also play some tournaments. And for me personally, this time still worked out pretty well. I think it's really only a problem for all the NA people, because you have to get up very early. But other than that, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, for me personally, also it fits very good into my weekend schedule, let's say. Especially on Sundays, like I couldn't play a couple of cups and tournaments because the final would be on Sunday, and obviously, if you play, you wanna have time for the final as well. And that's because I have to work in the evening, and then the noon time kind of for our time zone is actually perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we were glad you were able to play as well. Uh, I'm very happy of that. And do you have any more questions, Vidra and Quacker, for King and Saya?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Go ahead first.
Okay. How do you guys feel about best of 5 semis and best of 7 finals?
It's the same question.
I love it.
Would
Yeah,
you
I
guys
think
want a? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it has its upsides and downsides because you always will end up with just one best of three if it's either like in the first round or in the semis. But I feel like having the best of five in the semifinals instead of the group stages early is definitely like better for the higher elo people because generally the semifinal is going to be the harder matchup. But it also has a downside that a lot of people only get to play one best of three and then they are out of the tournament.
Do
Yeah,
you prefer this? Do you prefer this day one over the Nova Cup day one format where it's three best of threes?
I personally do prefer it because, like, we are generally like seed 1 or seed 2, so our first matches are pretty easy. But I think for the people that are at the bottom end of the seeds, they would rather prefer the other format.
Good take. Good take.
And Sayajin said he loves it if I heard it correctly.
Yeah, I love it because I mean, like I think the more games you play against each other, the more, let's say, performance and skill can be filtered out and make a difference. And sometimes you have maybe a bad day or like a little struggle in the beginning, and with a best of 7 in the final, for example, even if you lose 2 or 3 games, there is still a chance to come back and win, even though it's a hard way to do so. But you have no chance in a best of 3 or even in a best of 5 to do it. Even though best of 5 is already a good alternative for a final if the time schedule is like short. But the more games, the better for the viewers as well, and mostly it will be more exciting also, especially in situations where a team maybe like go ahead and then the other team come back and then it's still a close race in the end. But I personally prefer it just because like you can make mistakes and still come back with being the better player in the end or being in better form in the next game.
well, that's very good. That's very good that we have your opinion on this format too. And if anybody else in the chat or that have participated in this format of the best of 5 semi, best of 7 final, if you have any input for the tournament directors, um, then feel free to give your feedback about it. They're gonna appreciate the feedback because they always try and improve as much as they can. Um, and also the Nekomata Cup will also evolve. They will discuss about it, and so feedback about it will also help them a lot. So on that, I'm gonna say a final word here. Congratulations again to Kingdom and Sayajan for winning. Thank you for all the tournament directors for organizing this Nakamura Cup and giving me the chance of casting it also. Uh, gave me the motivation to upgrade my PC a little bit to have a more stable stream. So I can be grateful for that.
I have one question.
Oh yeah,
Sorry
sure.
to interrupt you, but was the cup kept on 8 teams, or was it just due to fewer registrations?
It was due to registration limitation. They adjusted the number of players so that they can be close in elo range to make it more fair. So yes, in terms of registration, it did a little bit worse than Nova Cup, but that's also mainly due to some confusion in time zone that people didn't really know the conversion. It looks like, but also. Um, it was just the first time the Nekomata Cup would go out. The format was different, and maybe not all people were comfortable with it. And so that's always when you try something new the first time. It always a struggle in the first edition, and sometimes goes up, sometimes goes down. So it will be hard to know for sure what will be the trend before we do another. But we do hope, of course, that there will be more edition of this cup. At least I do, and I think some of the viewers will also like it because more Legion for them is always appreciated. I do believe. Uh, so yeah, so feedback is always appreciated, and also thank you to my casters today for joining me, Viderson and Quacker. I hope you like the experience also of casting this final. I know I'm not as good as Penny as in terms of hosting, and but I do hope I did a decent job. Still for the viewers and also you guys to feel make you feel comfortable in the cast. And on that, I'm gonna leave you guys tell some final words, and then I'll turn off the stream.
I don't have too many final words. I'd say those are some good games, and it was a pretty solid tournament overall.
Yeah, I'd also say GG's. It's gonna be hard to convince King to play with me again over Saya, so I'm gonna look forward to that. And also, Shadow, you did a great job. Don't be too humble.
So on that, I'm gonna say thank you guys for tuning in to this first edition of the Nekomata Cup, and we're gonna see ourselves approaching the Nova Cup in 2 weeks, but also the beginning of the mid-season league organized by me. Sign-ups are open for those who didn't know. You have the instruction in the Legion TD Discord if you want to join. And so yeah, so see you everyone, and see you next time.